5. I will call upon Councilmember Rupert for the Pledge of Allegiance and moment of silent reflection.
Good evening, everyone. If you'll join me for a moment and then the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Ms. Rush, if you'll do the roll call.
Mayor Simpson?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Mormon?
Here.
Councilmember Ambrose? Councilmember Davis?
Here.
Councilmember Pfeiffer?
Here.
Councilmember Marriott?
Here.
Councilmember Rupert?
Here.
Thank you. Next, we have the approval of the minutes for July 15, 2025, and July 22nd, 2025, and August 5th, 2025. Are there any edits, corrections to the minutes? Seeing none, those stand approved. We have no...
Mayor, can I,
Absolutely.
point of order, can I excuse Councilmember
Oh.
Ambrose?
Absolutely. Please, Councilmember Pfeiffer. Thank you.
I'd like to make the motion to excuse Councilmember Ambrose from tonight's business meeting.
All right. All votes are cast. That passes 6-0. Councilmember Ambrose is an excused absence. Thank you, Councilmember Pfeiffer. All right. To begin this evening, we have a presentation on the 2025 mid-year financial report. Mr. Archer, Finance Director.
Concern that we might be facing a cliff. And so I'm going to repeat that story again tonight. Certainly, revenues are down as compared to 2024, halfway through the year. The good news is they're only down slightly, and you'll see here in a minute exactly where we expected from a budgetary perspective. Expenditures are in line with budgets, but continue to get tight. Our CIP project costs are now returning to normal. Now, normal means that we've seen these double-digit increases for a while. They're now leveling off. They're not returning back to the costs that we saw before. They're just leveling off. And then we continue to have some economic uncertainty. Since the last quarter presentation, we've seen tariffs, change in policy, and certainly now issues at the state and our closest neighbor, city and county of Denver, certainly facing budgetary concerns. We share this with you each and every time. This is our required fund balance and the required fund balance reserved by City Council. You will notice that we are still doing well, sitting as is right now about 46% of operating expenditures. This is a picture in time and is looking only at 2025. Remember, your fund balance policy requires that you meet your reserve in the current year, the 2-year budget, and in the 10-year model. As we are in budget season, we'll talk more about that here next month. Our monitor lights for the general fund overall, you can see that from a revenue perspective, we have a red light only on court revenue. Again, as we say each time, courts are not a revenue generator. This is just to reflect that they're a little bit below budget. We have monitor lights on auto use and general use. If you remember in the first quarter, we had those as green. We saw a lot of people rushing to buy products before the tariffs set in. That has since reduced in the second quarter. So while that was way ahead early, it's pulling back to more normal times. We want to watch that moving forward. Same story with our building revenues. As I already stated, we expected a 1-point reduction in revenues this year, and we're sitting at 1.2. So we're doing fine. If we dive a little bit deeper into our sales tax, this is an area of brightness for the city. We were expecting a 2% increase. We're sitting at 2.8. I do want to point out we have a couple areas of concern here. Supermarkets are down. This is the first time in a long time we've seen a reduction in supermarkets. Hardware stores are down. Cable and liquor, those have continued to go down each and every quarter. You will notice that these are being offset, again, by our wholesale and our e-shopping. We talk about this every quarter. People have become very addicted to have items delivered to their house. That is a big benefit to Arvada.
Mr. Archer, quick
Yes.
question. So if somebody's ordering an item from Amazon versus Walmart versus King Soopers, is it the same collected sales tax no matter what? Or do we see any kind of reduction because it's online versus in person?
Same sales tax no matter what. If you live in Arvada and it's delivered to your address, you pay the same as if you were to drive to that store.
Thank you.
The benefit we gain is if that product comes from outside of Arvada and is delivered to you, inside of Arvada, we now gain the benefit of that. If you were to drive to Westminster and buy something in person at Westminster, they get the benefit. One thing I do want to point out, as times continue to get tight, we do see a couple of trends. So the first trend being, and you'll see this on this next slide, our full service restaurants these are where you go to sit down and eat. They are flat. We notice that when individuals' budgets get tight, those areas feel it the most. What we also notice is that the limited service restaurants grow. And so you'll see over the last couple of years, we've seen growth in that category. What you're seeing in front of you is just a reflection on a revenue perspective of exactly what you saw on the slide previous. We do like to share this one with you. This is month over month change. And you will see early on, January, February, we were pretty flat. We had a good March and April and a little bit of a follow through in May. But again, this is what's leading to our growth in our sales tax, 2.8% for the year. On the expenditure side, we have put a monitor light on it solely because of the uncertainty of the second half of the year. We're really trying to understand what is happening at the federal level and what's happening at the state level and how that will affect us. Other than that, if we look internally, we feel pretty confident and we're doing quite well in all categories except services and charges, again, directly affected by tariffs and inflationary increases. If we take a look across the entire city, you'll notice we have a few monitor lights, specifically 2 in our housing area. We've heard a lot about that over the last few months and the increases in housing costs and our ability to offset those increases. The team is doing everything they can, but certainly are worried about how that moves and how that's going to affect us moving forward. We kept the monitor light on capital projects. Again, as I said before, while the projects are coming back more normal, they're still inflated as they were compared to 5 years ago. We did put a monitor light both on water and wastewater. We heard from them when we had our rate presentation that we've had a slow start to the year in water revenues from a usage perspective. And on the wastewater side, that's set in December, and last year we had a relatively dry December, and that leads to the whole year being a lower cost for our revenue coming in on the wastewater side. Finally, we put a warning light on our risk management, and that is because we had to pay out some claims this year at the beginning of this year. And so while that's usually a one-time thing, we want to make sure that moving forward, we have the appropriate funds set aside for that area. We feel very confident moving forward that this light will come off. On our investment side, much of the same story. As we tell you, in order, our ability to invest is safety, liquidity, and then return. We're also limited on how long we can go out, why we hired an outside party to invest some of our money. We are restricted to a 2-year time horizon. They are allowed to go out 5 years. If you look at your return, you will notice on the assets that are managed by the city, our average return is about 2.94, a little bit better than last year, which is at 2.41. You will look at the assets managed outside, actively managed. Their return is at 4.16 as compared to 3.42. Overall, our revenue has increased from investments as we are taking advantage of our reserves. Council did approve, this is a repeat, but they did approve our ability to buy A-rated securities, but asked that each quarter we bring those securities to you. This is the list. Very familiar names up there, large companies that choose to manage their money in a way that makes them get graded lower by S&P than if they had more reserves. So, for example, Toyota is a company that invests a lot in infrastructure and a lot in design, and so they don't keep a lot of reserves, and that forces S&P to rate them as A+ instead of AA. We're not expecting Toyota to go away anytime soon. Finally, these are our grants, another area that council has asked us to share with you. You will see that this year we have not been as successful as we were last year. However, we're still being pretty successful, where you will notice we've received a Parks Grant award for $750, a police grant for about $417, and some public works grants for about $736. We did get rejected for a little over $3 million in grants. We're much more active per the direction of City Council, and so we're expecting to get rejected a little more often. If you remember a few years ago, we were only getting rejected maybe once a year, and you all said, get more active, get out there. So we've done that. That means we lose a little more, but we probably are winning a little more as well. And this is just to highlight specifically the 3 large ones that we've received this year. So GOCO grant, a HISP grant, and then some behavioral grants with PD.
Mr. Archer, quick question. Are those grants currently already paid out, or are they pending?
These grants are pending, but we feel very confident because the funds came from prior budgets. So we don't think any of these are at risk with the current governor's orders.
Thank you.
So that is very quick, I realize. Are there questions that I can answer?
Council? I see no lights. Thank you very much, Mr. Archer.
Thank you.
All right. With that, I will open the public comment portion of this evening's agenda. Just a quick note, this is for items not scheduled on the agenda. If you are here for a hearing item and you'd like to speak to that, your opportunity for that will come later, unless the singular exception to that is if you would like to speak on something that is on the consent agenda or on our resolutions, you may do that at this time, but not on the public hearings. That'll be later. We always ask that you keep your comments directed at us at council. We also ask that the chamber remain respectful. No applause, no booing. We want everyone to feel comfortable and safe to come up and share their thoughts with us, whatever that may be. And so we want to create that space for everyone. Give your name and address when you come up. And with that, I will call up Gina Hallisey.
Am I able to use that overview thing for a picture?
Yes,
Okay. I'll need it. Where do you put it? Just in the middle?
just put it in the middle there and the team should be, there you go, yeah. And they can zoom in.
Wait a minute.
You're good.
Okay.
You're good.
My name is Gina Hallisey, and I'm the Vice President of the Maple Valley HOA. This summer, our neighborhood embarked on adopting a community wildfire protection plan, and our project was started in June and continues today as we speak. So I wanted to give you an update. My neighbors are grateful for the support and education we received from the city to help fund the project. We belong to the neighborhood group that Brady Porterfield Finn heads up, and through that engagement, we learned about how we could utilize city resources to help us set up a CWPP. The efforts of the city emergency manager, Brian Wilkerson, and also the education and follow-up from Arvada fire prevention specialist, Chris Warren, have shown what can happen when the city and community engage to collectively achieve the goal of creating a fire-safe neighborhood. I cannot fully express the incredible change we have seen in our neighborhood by bringing everyone together in this effort. The benefit of having a roll-off in the community, go figure, to assist neighbors in disposing of the yard waste was a big hit, and thank you now to the city for extending that $307 pricing for a Republic 30-yard roll-off, so that will encourage more neighborhoods to do a similar project in their community. Maple Valley adjoins Maple Valley Park and the Ralston Creek, and also backs to Shadow Mountain Park. We love living so close to parks and open space areas that also serve a large riparian habitat. We will continue our efforts to create defensible space around our homes, and we'll be working with Arvada Fire to develop a plan to come together and collectively work on doing some fire mitigation in the open space areas we all cherish. In being good stewards of the community where we live, by doing fire mitigation around our homes and cleanup events that keep Maple Valley Park and the Ralston Creek Trail cleaned up, I would also like to bring to your attention an important issue at Shadow Mountain Park. And you can kind of see from the picture. I don't know if you're trying to conserve water or if the grass has some sort of disease taking over, but this is very concerning to see. I took these pictures today. If this dries up the fire mitigation, us and our sister neighborhood, Shadow Mountain, that we're doing will be threatened because it's like a tinderbox over there in the middle of our communities. So it would be very costly to replace that grass if it doesn't get resolved quickly. So I'm publicly requesting that you ask the Parks Department to look into this situation immediately before the whole park goes brown. It's not fall yet. There should be no reason why that park has got all these huge brown patches of dead grass. So thank you in advance for looking into it and protecting the open space and parks that we all enjoy.
Thank you very much. Next, we have Tyler Bryant.
Hi, Council. Good evening. My name is Tyler Bryant. I'm your new area manager at Excel Energy. Just want to take the time to introduce myself. I've been working with Jacqueline Rhodes since I took this job about 4 weeks ago, so I'm getting brought up to speed on everything Arvada. And I'm looking forward to working with you on all the projects, ideas, any sort of community assistance that we can do to kind of build our relationship with the city, but also our customers that reside here. So any questions, ideas, please reach out to Jacqueline. She can get a hold of me, and I'll be as responsive as I can. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome. Next, we have David Finch.
I'd like to talk at the last.
Oh, absolutely.
Did I fill out the wrong form?
In the hearing item on the land development code?
No.
Oh. Oh, the 5 minute. Thank you very much. I'll be sure to save you for that.
I have 2 minutes.
Yep. Absolutely, sir. That's all the signups I have for the 3-minute public comment. Is there anyone else in chambers who would like to give public comment at this time? Yes, please come on down. Name and address for the record, and I will also request you fill out one of these sheets for Ms. Rush. Oh,
I did.
You did?
I don't know
Oh.
where it went, but
Let me see if, oh.
handed it in. Anyway, I'm Judy Douglas. I live at 10122 West 70th Drive. I just want to talk to you generally today about housing and the need for housing in Arvada. I understand that there's going to be some requests for changes in the future, and I'm just here to let you know how important this issue of housing is to many of us who don't show up to protest. I think people grumble when there's change, but we mostly accept that change has happened all of our lives. There are many more people that live in Arvada now than did when we bought our single-family homes. And now we've got some reality we really need to face. My children can't live in Arvada. If I wanted to move out of my 3-bedroom home, I couldn't probably find a place to live in Arvada. Business owners are complaining that they can't find employees because of the long commutes into Arvada. There's no housing here for service workers. I know when my husband was in nursing care, his caregivers came from Aurora and Commerce City. If you've got a 2-hour commit to work, you're not going to be as productive as if you live close by. We can't keep building suburbs further out. We can't just keep extending this single-family new suburb further and further out. That's expensive for the city. It doesn't pay for itself. There's an extreme burden on the infrastructure. So we need to infill, and that's a very difficult thing for most people to accept. I just want to remind you that as these zoning requests come up, please consider the consequences and the reality of what we're facing right now. And things aren't going to just continue as they have been with us all going out further and buying a new home on a vacant lot. We just really need to understand that infilling is needed, and I hope that you'll help us to educate people on why this is so. Thank you.
Thank you. Real quick, Ms. Douglas, you filled out the hearing for the Vauxmont Metro District hearing. Would you like to also speak at that time?
No.
Or with, nope, okay.
Oh, wrong box.
It's okay, don't worry about it.
Glasses.
Gotcha.
Sorry.
Is there anyone else in chambers who would like to give public comment at this time? Seeing none, I will close this portion of the public comment meeting and move us into the consent agenda. There has been a request to remove R25-067 from the consent agenda, so we will do the first 3 items and then we will hear that one individually. So the consent agenda this evening consists of 3 items. They are R25-064, a resolution authorizing the donation of impaired driving program equipment from the Arvada Police Force to the Arvada Police Foundation to the Arvada Police Department. R25-065, a resolution approving the Fifth Amendment to an employment agreement between the City of Arvada and Rachel A. Morris as City Attorney. R25-066, a resolution approving the Fifth Amendment to an employment agreement between the City of Arvada and Catherine C. Kurtz as presiding municipal court judge. Councilmember Davis.
I move that R25, 064, 065, 066 be approved.
Council has voted. That passes 6-0 with Councilmember Ambrose being an excused absence. Now we will hear R25-067, a resolution approving the City of Arvada lease agreement for the use of the parklets in Old Town. We'll accept a motion then if anyone has any comments or questions on this item. Councilmember Davis.
I move that R25-67 be approved.
All right. Councilmember Marriott, you wish to speak.
Yes. So I understand this particular item is just standardizing some terms and some whereases in our basic lease form for these parklets in Old Town. But I want to bring something up as part of this that these may be unnecessary, or maybe the terms need to be changed a lot. The parklets have worked great in Old Town, and they are used by some, but they are not, it's far from an ideal situation. There are some businesses that have parklets in front of them that do not have floors on them. They're basically just an enclosure, and it's asphalt underneath. And because of the crown of the streets and the sidewalk and the curb and gutter, it's not a flat surface, but yet they're being leased to those businesses at the same rate as the business that has one that's a better parklet. Also, the initial idea behind leasing these parklets to businesses was that the money would be collected and then used to maintain these parklets, and that's kind of not happened. The parklets, if you look close, are starting to show their ages. Additional maintenance could be done, or potentially they probably really need to be is to be replaced. And so I'm fine with approving changes in the lease, but I would prefer, and I would ask our team to, before you start implementing these new terms and new leases with businesses, that you have a conversation with the Business Improvement District or the businesses that have parklets in front of their establishments that they're renting, and have a broader conversation about the goals of these parklets, the lifespan of these parklets, and the equity of charging what's being charged for these parklets. I think they've served their purpose. I think they should stay or be replaced with others. I wouldn't advocate for getting rid of them. But I do think it's a big burden on some businesses to be renting a parklet that's substandard and for relatively a lot of money. I mean, it sounds inexpensive when you say, well, it's only $50 a square foot, but it's $50 per square foot on a monthly basis, which is $6 a square foot on an annual basis, which is only about half the price of just renting complete space that you could rent. And so it's quite a bit less than that. So in any case, I will be voting yes on this language changes in these leases, but I would hope before any leases are actually executed that the team will open up a discussion with the bid and those businesses and come up with a better solution.
Thank you, Councilmember Marriott. Councilmember Pfeiffer, you wish to speak?
Oh, just real quick, just point of clarification. It's $1 per square foot, not $50 per square foot.
That's correct.
So how big is a parklet?
It's not very big. I mean, usually they're 10 by 20, maybe, something like that.
If they're small, they're about 10 by 20. So what? So $200 for 6 months is what they pay.
I think it depends on how it's expressed, Mr. Pfeiffer. The way I believe it's expressed is $1 per square foot per month, which is the equivalent of $12 per square foot on an annual basis.
They only get charged 6 months. They only charge them 6 months.
I don't know what the details are.
So
but
yeah, I'm reading it.
I can read you the details if
Yeah,
you'd
go
like.
for it.
Okay, so the sentence that talks about the rental amount says the biannual rent is assessed at $1 per square foot by 6 months per year. So twice a year, they pay their rent of $1 per square foot. And if I could respond very briefly, we can get back to you in more detail. I know we do have programs internally where we look at the parklets, and I know we've had individuals who call in. When we have people call in talking about some issue with the parklet, we do go out and renovate those and repair them and things like that. I don't know that we're catching everything, so I will absolutely pass on your comments to make sure that we are paying attention to everything and connecting with the bid.
Councilmember Davis.
Yes, thank you. And thank you for these clarifications, Councilmember Marriott and Councilmember Pfeiffer. What I am a little concerned about and would hope that we could work with the bid is the expansion of the parklets. They kind of bleed out onto the sidewalk so that then the sidewalks are, they can't be egressed. So I'd hope we could work with those businesses, and in some terms, businesses are blocked so that visitors can't come in and shop at them. So if we could just work with those businesses, making sure that they're not getting onto the sidewalk and things like that, that would be awesome. Or if they want to be on the sidewalk, we charge them $2.
Thank you very much. There is a motion on the table. Council will cast their votes. All votes are cast. That passes 6-0 with Councilmember Ambrose being an excused absence. Thank you very much. This evening's resolutions, I'll open with R25-068, a resolution concurring with the imposition of by Mountain Shadows Metropolitan District of a park and recreation fee. Our Assistant City Attorney Megan McCall, I believe you have this item.
I do, thank you. The Mountain Shadows Metropolitan District has requested that the city concur with the district's ability to impose a park and recreation fee should the district choose to do so. The district service plan prohibits the district from imposing fees unless the fee is for park and recreation improvements, but the district cannot impose a park and recreation fee unless the city first concurs with such imposition. The fee would be imposed if or when revenue from property taxes is insufficient for the district to operate and maintain certain district and city parks that it currently is obligated to operate and maintain at the level it historically has. For instance, and subject to council approving the resolution that's before it, if the district does not receive voter authorization at the election this November to increase the amount of property tax revenue that it currently can collect, then the district anticipates imposing a fee in 2026. If the district does receive voter authorization to increase the amount of property tax revenue that it currently can collect, then the fee may not be necessary for 2026, but the district would still have the ability in the future to impose a park and recreation fee. Should council approve the resolution, if the district imposes the fee in 2026 and then increases that fee, or if the district does not impose a fee in 2026 but imposes a fee at a later date, the district would be required to provide certification by an external fee advisor regarding the reasonableness of the fee or the fee increase, which is also a requirement currently in the city's model service plan. I'm happy to answer any questions, and a representative from the district is also available to address council, and I believe has prepared some remarks to address council on this and answer any questions as well.
All right. If the district representative has remarks, I'll invite them up at this time. So, name and address for the public record, please.
Thank you. My name is Greg Rutz. I live at 13459 West 87th Drive. I'm the president of the Mountain Shadows Metro District Board of Directors. And I just wanted to come up and talk a little bit today about the board and the way that we sort of do our business. We operate on three sort of main principles for taking care of our neighborhood. We are concerned about the beauty and the safety of our neighborhood. So we care a lot about green trees and trimmed bushes and grasses. We are very interested in making sure the trails are clear and the sidewalks are clear. Playground equipment is taken care of. Very concerned about all the native that we have in the area and doing fire mitigation. To number two, we're concerned about our obligations to the city. We have 4 tracts of land that will eventually be turned over to the city in 2036. 2 of those tracts of land have 2 city parks, and we're very much interested in returning those, or not returning, and transferring those to city maintenance in good shape. Third is that we are obligated to our constituents, and we and the board members that are here, all of our board members, we are all residents and homeowners in the district, so all the decisions that we make, they affect all of us. We have done more this year than we probably ever have, and will continue to do so this year through November, to reach out to our constituents to, number one, to let them know that we exist, because that's actually quite a challenge, and number two, to let them know about the importance of the election in November and how those ballot measures affect them. The resolution that's on the table for the council today is merely a safety net in case those efforts are not enough to achieve the desired outcome. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'll open it to council for questions. Councilmember Pfeiffer.
Greg, before you sit down, do you want to explain this map? Because the Parks and Rec fee would only apply to the city, I'm looking at the team here, the city property, or soon-to-be city property, not all of the Metro District's property. It's just on that proportion, right?
It's my understanding that the fee would be able to be used for any of the obligations of the district for park and recreation improvements, which would include district-owned property and parks.
And one of the things I want to call out that I had all memorized in my head, but of course I get up here and forget it, the 4 retention ponds that you see there are part of the city's water and drainage situation. We are responsible for maintaining those, keeping proper storage levels. So, yes, the parks, of course, are a primary motivation for us, but things like fire mitigation, mowing, we have, we're in extreme northwest Arvada, so lots of native, lots of other stuff outside of those city tracks that we would like to be able to take care of in the event that the measures in November are not successful.
But the fees will not apply to the pool or anything like
Correct.
that?
Correct. The clubhouse and the pool are part of the HOA agreement, so none of the property on the pool or the pool parking lot or the clubhouse are maintained by the Metro District. It's literally just the landscaping, native, the 2 parks, snow removal for all the sidewalks throughout the whole district, and the ponds are also a source of a large expense for operations and maintenance.
I'll make the motion whenever, if there's any other questions.
I see no other lights. Councilmember Pfeiffer, you have the motion.
I move that Resolution 25-068, a resolution concurring with the imposition by Mountain Shadow Metropolitan District of a park and recreation fee be approved.
Councilmember Marriott.
So I'll make a comment. We first looked at this issue and solved this issue a year ago, or in excess of a year ago, and council had different feelings on it then. I'm glad that we have come around to the right outcome here to give you guys the tools to self-govern your own district, your own metro district, and I wish you luck in whatever pathway you choose to perform your responsibilities, but I'm glad we're giving you the ability to do it this time. So
thank you, Councilman.
Yes.
Councilmember Pfeiffer.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you. I mean, I've had a couple town halls. I was at your last board meeting. You did a fantastic job explaining it. I know that community is pretty engaged, so you still need to continue to focus on that. I think we all agree that your ceiling is unnecessary. It kind of prohibits you from doing what you need to be doing. That ceiling needs to be moved up, and I think you're doing the right thing. So I appreciate all the effort by you and your teams.
Thank you, Councilman.
Likewise. All right, and with that, that passes 6-0, with Councilmember Ambrose being an excused absence. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Council.
Next, I will open R25-069, a resolution authorizing an intergovernmental agreements for election coordination with the Jefferson County Clerk and Recorder and the Adams County Clerk and Recorder. Mr. Wick, you have this item.
Thank you, Mayor. The purpose of this resolution is to authorize intergovernmental agreements with both Jefferson and Adams County for the regular municipal election to be held on November 4th, 2025. Both Jefferson County and Adams County have determined that they will be conducting a coordinated election on November 4th, 2025. The city team recommends that council pass this resolution.
Mayor Pro Tem Mormon.
If there are no questions, I'll make the motion.
All yours.
I move that R25-069, a resolution authorizing intergovernmental agreements for election coordination with the Jefferson County Clerk and Recorder and the Adams County Clerk and Recorder be approved.
All votes are cast. That passes 6-0 with Councilmember Ambrose being an excused absence. Finally, we have R25-070, a resolution authorizing a First Amendment to the 2025-2026 biennial operating and capital budget to advance funds to the Arvada Center in the amount of $1,624,000. Mr. Wick, you have this item again.
Thank you, Mayor. This proposed budget amendment is for the purpose of advancing the equivalence of 1 year's worth of contributions and management service fee, which is $1.624 million, to the Arvada Center for the Arts and Humanities. The amount is in advance of future typical contributions by the city to address the Arvada Center's current operational needs. Assuming the Arvada Center accepts and meets the approved terms and conditions, the funds will be dispersed in 2 installments. The proposal is rooted in a long-standing cooperative relationship between the city and the Arvada Center and is structured to recover the advance through reductions in future contributions and management services for the payment. As a bit more background, the Arvada Center was established in 1976 as a multidisciplinary arts facility funded and operated by the city in 2015, the center transitioned to a nonprofit entity. The city of Arvada and the Arvada Center have been cooperatively involved over all of this time. The request for the advance is being made in the amount of $1.624 million from the general fund to the Arvada Center, and key elements include the funding structure, which I described to be the payback period over the 10-year period of time, and assuming that the Arvada Center accepts these terms and conditions, they would receive half of the disbursement after this approval of $812,000. And upon working through with a consultant to evaluate the organization and presenting information back to the council may authorize the second half of the $812,000 that would be sometime next year. So with that, the city team is recommending that the council approve the resolution.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Mormon.
Well, I know there's probably going to be discussion, but I was going to make the motion to start that, if I may.
Absolutely. Are there questions before we have a motion on the table? Councilmember Pfeiffer.
Yeah, the $50,000 for the consultant, is that in that price? I didn't look at that.
No, the $50,000 cost for the consultant is in addition to that.
Okay. But that's just a contribution, that we're not expecting that to be taken out of future forward funds or anything
Correct.
like that? Okay.
Councilmember Marriott.
Yeah, I have a question, Mr. Wick. Until last year or the year before, how did we typically make our contributions to the Arvada Center?
So typically, the way our contributions are made are really in 2 parts. One is that we make the $1.624 million contribution in 2 parts, very similar to the way the resolution here is suggesting. And then number 2 are in-kind services.
Okay. The $1.6 million cash contribution that we make, what times of the year? You say we make that in 2 parts. what times of the year would we make those contributions?
Brian, make sure I'm right. I believe we do this in January and then again around this time of year, August, September.
Okay. So for the calendar year of 2025 that we are in, and our contribution for 2025, how and when did we make that contribution?
I'm going to ask Brian to give you the details because we did a little differently this year.
Thank you. This year, we changed our contribution and advanced it to the center. So we made an initial contribution of the $800,000 in January. We then pulled forward our contribution that we historically make in July or August in two parts, making one of them approximately $400,000 in March and then again in June.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Mayor Pro Tem Mormon.
All right. I move that R25-070, a resolution authorizing a First Amendment to the 2025-2026 biannual operating and capital budget to advance funds to the Arvada Center in the amount of $1,625,000 be approved.
$24,000. All right. Council, if you would like to discuss or vote. Councilmember Marriott.
Thank you. So I'm going to make some comments here and then tell you how I'm going to vote. So I'm going to start off with, I support the Arvada Center. I think it's a good thing for Arvada, and I really want the Arvada Center to succeed. You know, it's been around since I was in high school, and I've been there many times. Sometimes I go more frequently than others, but I would sure like to see it succeed. This, however, I'm afraid I cannot vote no on, or cannot vote yes on. I will be voting no. And the reason why is because from the limited financial information that we've gotten from the Arvada Center, and the limited amount that our representatives on the board of the Arvada Center have been exposed to, the Arvada Center's got a big problem in that its expenses greatly exceed its revenue and have for some time. And adding more revenue to them this one time only just prolongs the inevitable of them being back in this position. If there was a requirement for us to contribute more for them to reduce expenditures to a certain amount, to produce a balanced budget, to accurately forecast their revenues, you know, things like that, I would be more inclined to be supportive of it. But with this additional advanced contribution that we're making, we're actually, in the calendar year of 2025, the Arvada Center is getting twice as much money from the city as they would normally do. And given their financial position, some of it is already spent even. And without strong action by them, I foresee a year from now or a year and a half from now, them being right back in this position. And I realize that this advance comes with, you know, the offer to provide a consultant to look at their operations and help them. But there's no requirements. And the requirement to me would have to be that they reduce the expenditures by the amount that they're underwater. And I don't see that in this. So I'm absolutely voting no. And I wish them luck. I sure want them to succeed. But they can't keep doing what they've been doing and just hope it works out better the next time. They need a big bunch of changes around there, and at least myself on City Council have not been privy to or notified of any anticipated changes that they're going to make, and I'm afraid they'll just get deeper. And so with that, I will be voting no.
Councilmember Davis.
Yes, thank you, and thank you for your thoughtful thoughts, Mr. Marriott. I will be voting yes, but I will say that I'm hoping that with an influx of half of the money, that the Arvada Center will make some changes and make some smart choices so that they are able to have the second tranche of money, the second $800,000 of money. I want to make sure that we are wisely spending your tax dollars. I love the Arvada Center as much as anyone else, and it's a wonderful place to convene and conference and actually just have quiet reflection. But in that, we also have to be fiscally responsible. And I answer to you, and I want to make sure that you know that I'm thinking of you and your tax dollars, and I hope that you all will support the Arvada Center and go and enjoy some of the offerings that they have so that we can make sure that our local gem stays in Arvada's crown. That's about all I can say. I'm just extremely, extremely hopeful. My fingers and toes are crossed for the Arvada Center. And I've heard from you. You love the Arvada Center, so I want to keep it going.
Mayor Pro Tem Mormon.
Thank you, Mayor, and I appreciate the comments of fellow council members. The Arvada Center is a huge asset to our community. As City Manager mentioned earlier, started back in 1976. It was a voter-approved ballot initiative that initiated the program, and I think over almost 50 years it has brought cultural and economic benefits to our community, and my hope is that it continues to do that. I do not take this decision tonight lightly. It is a significant amount of money we are advancing to them, and I appreciate all the work that our staff, our city team, as well as the team at the Arvada Center have put into working on this agreement with the understanding that the Arvada Center will come back to us after the consultant has done its work and report to us on what decisions they will make to make sure that they're on the path to being financially sustainable. And so with that, I will be supporting it and feel that we have an opportunity to have this conversation with them in a way that is productive and that we can have a vibrant and continue to have a very, as my Councilmember Davis, fellow Councilmember said, a gem in our city and in our region.
Councilmember Rupert.
Thank you. I'll be supporting the motion and the assistance. Arvada Center has an actual history of excellent programming in our community, and all organizations at one time or another face challenges. Mr. Archer explained that the city has been facing the possibility of reduced revenues and things like that currently and year after year. It happens in organizations, and they require sometimes very difficult decisions and very difficult changes. I'm looking forward to hearing the Arvada Center's board taking those actions, but I'm absolutely supportive of their efforts and the opportunity to get that done. Because the Arvada Center is an important institution in our community.
Councilmember Pfeiffer.
So just want to listen. Thank you all for sharing your thoughts. You're right. It's a tough decision. I think the Arvada Center has done a great job in its community. I think, being on the Arts Council that helped spin it off into its nonprofit, Mr. Marriott as part of the transition committee with former Mayor Williams, and knowing what we thought should happen 10 years later, which is what we're hitting, has not, panned out completely. And, I sit here on the fence, to be honest with you, because, I look at the competing priorities that we have, and we have limited money to do some of those priorities. And this one kind of came out of the blue. That kind of affects the things that we've been talking about: housing. We've been talking about homeless. We've been talking about our streets, our medians. We have water treatment concerns, to get that going. I could keep list, and that's just eroding away yet another $1-point-something million from other priorities that we actually planned for. I too have been watching their financials for a few years now, actually probably the whole time, and have questioned some of the abilities to achieve what they're trying to do. And you know what? They do a fantastic job with their programming. but we also need to make sure that they have a balanced budget. And, right now, Mr. Marriott, I think, hit it spot on. I think we're the two that have been here the longest, and I didn't know how I was going to vote, but I think I'm going to vote no on this one.
So I'll kind of recap the thoughts, and I'd like to provide a little additional context for folks, because I realize you've kind of picked up some bits and pieces here. As you noted, as it was noted, this organization is turning 50 years old, voter approved, and it was a city agency for the longest time. And in 2015, with an incredible amount of diligent work, thank you, Councilmember Pfeiffer, I know you were a part of that, it was spun off into its own nonprofit, and they had sort of this trajectory plan, and some of that was an agreement with the city that we would continue to fund them. Now, this is not an unusual thing. Almost all arts organizations are funded by their municipalities, their states, in some kind of capacity. That's a really common model, because generally speaking, the arts is not considered to be a for-profit thing unless you want to be paying Broadway prices here in Arvada. So with that, the city has always had a commitment. What this agreement does is it allows the Arvada Center to reduce payments that are already committed by the city, contractually obligated, so that they can reduce it over time, as opposed to it's a loan, they're paying it back. Actually, we're just paying them less over time to recoup the loan, or the forwarding advance costs. So I wanted to make sure that was clear. And then in addition, the Arvada Center, they do a phenomenal job with their programming. I think getting the word out there to folks is probably really incredibly important. They're coming up on their 50th anniversary season. It's a really good season, and if you've never seen a show at the Arvada Center, you need to. I always joke that it's the same quality of show as going to see one of the Broadway tours down at DCPA, but at half the price and better seats. So take advantage of that. It is the largest regional theater in our area outside of Denver, and they also have some of the best children's programming. My own daughter takes classes and summer camps there, and they have the largest youth arts education in the Rocky Mountain region. This is more than just arts. It is recreation. And Parks and Recreation is a municipal responsibility. We think of pools, we think of swing sets and things of that nature. But when you're not an athletic kid or you don't like to be outside, the arts may be your recreation. And this makes it available at an affordable cost for Arvada residents, as well as children around the region and anybody who just likes the theater. So with that, I will be supporting this, and I share the concerns of some of my colleagues up here, Mr. Pfeiffer, Mr. Marriott. Your comments are not lost. And in fact, I pause with some of these concerns as well, because these are funds we could be expending in other places at this time. That said, this is an important community amenity. It is important for not just the children and the everyday goers, but people of all stripes take joy there. And I encourage all of you here tonight or watching at home to check out their upcoming season. You will not be disappointed in the shows. They're going to be excellent. And moreover, it's just a great night. And this is how, by us as a community rallying to support our organizations, that's how we solve these problems together. So with that, if we have all the votes cast, that passes 4-2 with Councilmember Pfeiffer and Councilmember Marriott being dissenting votes and Councilmember Ambrose being an excused absence. Thank you. Next, let's see here. Next, we have first reading. Mayor Pro Tem Moorman.
I move CB 25-020, an ordinance rezoning certain land within the city of Arvada, the former Allendale Elementary School, from City of Arvada RN-7.5 residential neighborhood to City of Arvada R6 residential 6, and amending the official zoning maps of the city of Arvada, Colorado, 5900 Oak Street. Public hearing to be set for October 7th, 2025 at 6:15 p.m.
Thank you. All votes are cast. That passes 6-0 with Councilmember Ambrose being an excused absence. All right. Next, we have the appointment to the CML Policy Committee. Let me find this real quick. All right. Ms. Morris, do I make this particular motion, or does it go to a member of council? CML?
It goes to council.
Okay. Councilmember Davis.
I move to appoint Councilmember Shauna Ambrose to the CML Policy Committee.
Is that because she wasn't here tonight? Is that what you did?
Well, it was me, and she decided to not be here, so you know how that goes.
Yeah. At least she didn't have to recuse herself from the vote. All right, that comes up 6-0 with Councilmember Ambrose being an excused absence. All right, next we need a motion to cancel the August 26, 2025 City Council meeting. And for public context, this is because our workshops schedule we're just moving them forward into the fall, taking this last week off here in the summer, and we'll be back in early September. Councilmember Pfeiffer.
I move the council cancel the August 26, 2025 City Council meeting.
Councilmember Davis.
I am hoping that in the near future, we can have the requested stormwater workshop. Yeah, that's to
I'll
infrastructure.
look, but I believe that those are coming up.
Okay, I'm just hoping.
Councilmember Marriott, I need your vote. Thank you. That passes 6-0 with Councilmember Ambrose being an excused absence.
Thank you for the gift of time.
We'll take it. All right, I will open this evening's public hearings. First, I will open CB 25-016, an ordinance submitting proposed amendments to Section 8.2 of the Charter for the City of Arvada to the registered electors at the November 4, 2025 regular municipal election and setting ballot titles, ordinance number 4902. And I believe Deputy Court Administrator Vicki Wire. Welcome.
Welcome and thank you, Mayor Simpson and City Council members, for your time tonight. I am here on behalf of Judge Kurtz, who is proposing an amendment to Section 8.2 of the Charter, removing the residency requirement for Arvada Municipal Court judges. Let's see here. Here's the wording of that section, and you'll see in the bold text there, each judge of the municipal court shall be a resident of the City of Arvada. We realize that there are some benefits to the residency requirement, and some of those being the following. There is a community connection of a resident judge is more likely to have a personal stake in the city's welfare and development, potentially leading to more thoughtful and empathetic decision-making. There is better understanding of local issues. Living in the community may enhance a judge's awareness of local concerns, norms, neighborhood dynamics that could affect their rulings and courtroom management. There is increased public trust. Citizens may feel greater trust and accountability when the judge is one of our own, fostering transparency and civic confidence in the municipal court system. While there is certainly a sense that Judge Kurtz is one of our own, there are also numerous conflicts that arise that can actually lead to the sense of distrust. In court, Judge Kurtz regularly sees people she knows from the community and has personal relationships with. During a hearing, these relationships are raised as a conflict and require both parties to state whether or not they waive the conflict. If they do not waive the conflict, the case is continued for a relief judge to hear. Even though a conflict is addressed and the parties waive the conflict, the remainder of the courtroom may question whether Judge Kurtz is truly unbiased and impartial when handling these cases. And then there is an ease of access. Being local could allow the judge to respond quickly to emergent court matters and scheduling needs, offering logistic benefits and court operations. However, with our recent transition to paperless court, there's never been an emergent matter or scheduling need that Judge Kurtz could not handle either in person or by remote. It's also important that to address the drawbacks of the residency requirement. This causes a limited talent pool when trying to find relief judges. It significantly narrows the field of qualified candidates, especially in a specialized field like municipal law. This potentially impacts the quality of the judicial appointments. In a previous relief judge posting, we had only one applicant who was a resident of the city. This applicant had a previous ethical complaint and therefore was not a suitable candidate for the position. The remainder of the applicants were not residents of the city and therefore could not be considered. There's also a reduced diversity of perspective, which limits the legal experience and background brought to the municipal court. There's potential for perceived bias. A resident judge may have a personal stake in the city's welfare and development or professional relationships within the city. These could lead to perceptions or realities of bias or conflicts of interest in certain cases. Also, recruitment challenges. It is difficult to recruit qualified candidates if they must move to the city to accept the position, which can slow down hiring or deter top legal professionals from applying. This next slide shows you the residency requirements in other cities in the state. Out of 215 municipal courts statewide, Arvada is one of only 7 cities that has a residency requirement of some form. 4 of those 7 require the judge to live within the city limits. This is a list of staffing of cities of comparable sizes. So it's listed by population from the largest to the smallest, and we fall there in the middle. Most of those jurisdictions have 1 or 2 full-time judges, and some have additional half-time, three-quarter-time judges. What we want you to see on this graphic is the pool of relief judges. You'll notice that in Arvada, Greeley, and Boulder, the cities with the residency requirement, we have a significantly smaller pool of relief judges, whereas cities like Westminster, Lakewood, Fort Collins, and Thornton, who do not have the requirement, have a larger pool of relief judges. And even without this residency requirement, they are able to maintain high ethical standards and strong community oversight. A judge has a conflict of interest when their personal or financial interests could compromise their ability to remain impartial in a case. This could include situations where they have personal bias toward a party, have a financial stake in the outcome, or have a close relationship with someone involved in the case. When a conflict exists, the judges must recuse themselves from the case to ensure fairness and impartiality, and this protects the public interest in judiciary rather than individual litigant rights. Sorry. Judge Kurtz routinely has conflicts on cases because of individuals she knows from the community who appear in court. She is and has been very involved in the community through boards and other endeavors, as well as raising 2 children, one who graduated from and one who is currently attending an Arvada public school. There are some circumstances where she cannot waive a conflict, even with the consent of the parties, so she must set the case over for one of the relief judges to hear. The municipal court team believes that this ballot issue will ensure that we are able to provide reliable, consistent, competent, and well-qualified judges for all who come before the court. It's aimed at strengthening the court, protecting public trust, and ensuring that everyone who walks through its doors is treated with fairness, dignity, and due process. Judge Kurtz is recommending that the City Council approve CB 25016, an ordinance submitting proposed amendments to Section 8.2 of the Charter of the City of Arvada to the registered electors at the November 4th, 2025 regular municipal election and setting ballot titles. Thank you very much. Do you have any questions?
Councilmember Marriott.
Yeah. How long has the residency requirement been in our charter?
I do not know that. Don, do you know?
I can look that up for you really quick, Councilmember Marriott, if you give me a couple minutes.
Okay, no problem. How many relief judges do we have right now?
We currently have 5.
5, okay. And what's the requirement to be a relief judge?
To be a city resident and an attorney at law.
Okay, and any kind of attorney at law can apply to be a relief judge?
Yeah, I mean, it does considerably help if they've had some criminal law experience.
Okay, and what do why do people become a relief judge? Why would you become a relief judge? Why would you do that?
I sat in on a couple of interviews recently, and it's mostly because they're interested in being part of the community, investing some time in the community, and their interest in criminal law.
Okay. Is it fair to say that it's a good first step on the way to the career of being a judge? Or it could be a good first step on the...
Well, yeah, it could be, but I think a lot of, it's like a part-time job for those, they're filling in for when Judge Kurtz is not able to be on the bench, so yes. I mean, we do have, a lot of our relief judges are relief judges in other municipalities as well, so.
Mm-hmm. And so much like in any profession, someone might, at the beginning level of that profession, they might intern, or they might work part-time, or they might work a limited assignment to kind of test the waters, get their feet wet.
Yeah.
You know, their expected performance can be high, but you know, they may not be into that career yet, but may do it to test it out.
Yeah.
Could that be fairly said that
Sure.
relief judges could fall under that?
Mm-hmm.
Under that, okay. And attorneys are all registered in the state of Colorado, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Do you have any idea how many attorneys reside in the city of Arvada?
I do not.
Is it 10, more than 10?
I'm sure.
Yeah, more than 100?
I would not, I don't have any idea.
In the thousands? Okay. All right, sounds good. That's okay, I won't ask you to do that. Ms. Morris, did you find out how long that's been in our charter?
So, yes and no. So, it was originally, that section 8.2 was originally in the charter in 1993 when the charter was adopted. There was some kind of an amendment that happened in 2001, but I cannot get the ordinance that shows what those changes were. I believe we've had this residency requirement since 1993, but.
Okay, so it's been 20 or 30 years, somewhere along the line. And we've used relief judges that whole time, right? Relief judges aren't something new, as far as anybody knows.
I don't believe that's a new thing for us.
Right, okay. That's all the questions I have, thanks.
Okay.
Councilmember Davis.
Thank you for the presentation.
Sure.
So relief judges, is it safe to say that maybe sometimes this is something they would come to toward the end of their career or after retirement, so they still want to give back to the community?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And given the most recent pool of applicants, of those, were most of those applications from, or do you know how many of the applications were from outside of the city? So, for example, if you received 10 applications, 6 of them were from out of the city.
I don't have access to that part of our HR.
And our HR person
Yeah.
left.
Yeah.
But anyway, that would be an interesting number to know that how many people do apply, and hoping that maybe the residency requirement would not apply to them or be applicable.
If you'd like, I can have Judge Kurtz get you that information.
Oh, that's not necessary.
Well, one thing I would add to that is I would imagine the posting probably specifically requires a resident. Now, we still may see out-of-city folks applying. If that requirement wasn't there, I imagine that the applications will look different than with the residency requirement.
Absolutely, and that's kind of what I was getting at, was that, you know, there may be 1,000 attorneys in Arvada, but many of them may be either practicing or retired or feel that they're too early in their career to be a judge, especially if you want some criminal experience. So, I was just wondering about that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sure.
I have a couple of quick questions.
Okay.
For those who may be retired but want to serve as a relief judge, they have to maintain their active law license, correct?
Yes.
So if that has lapsed, they either have to go back and renew it or they're ineligible for service. Okay. How many hours approximately a week should a relief judge in Arvada expect to work?
Per week, I would say maybe 8. Judge Kurtz isn't absent very often, but We've recently implemented some time for her to do admin work, so that's 4 hours a week she's going to have a relief judge in on an afternoon so she can work in the office.
So adding it together, that's roughly 12 hours, and that's if we're running one courtroom and not two?
Correct.
Great.
We haven't run 2 courtrooms in quite some time,
Yeah.
since before COVID.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so essentially, though, kind of where I'm going with this is that it's not really something you can do holding a full-time job, because you need to be here during business hours on a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, theoretically, if you are doing this job.
All of our judges are working.
Mm-hmm.
So what we do is we send out a request for coverage, and they let us know when they can appear on the bench. So they work around their full-time jobs.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Councilmember Davis.
Are there any more questions?
I
If
see no
not-
more lights.
I can weigh in for certain on your question. We did find the answer. The 2001 amendment to section 8.2 was just a couple words here and there. So to answer your question, the residency requirement has been in there since 1993.
Thank you. And quickly, is there anyone who would like to give public comment on this particular item at this time? Seeing none, I will close public comment. Oh, wait, there is? Please come forward. Name and address for the public record.
Sorry, didn't know this was on the agenda tonight. My name is Mike Rawlick, 18735 West 59 Drive, Golden, Colorado, 80403. As you guys know, I'm an airline pilot. We do commute long distances. We have friends that have commuted several states to get to work, but they're very well qualified to do the job. So if you're expanding your applicant pool, it could be a really good thing for the best judges out there. I have friends that literally live in one city, one state, get to work in another because they're the best at what they do. So just my 2 cents. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Any additional public comment at this time? Seeing none, I will close public comment. Councilmember Davis. Or, yes, go for it.
I would like to make the motion. I move that CB 25-016, an ordinance submitting proposed amendments to section 8.2 of the charter for the city of Arvada to the registered electors at the November 4th, 2025 regular municipal election, and setting ballot titles be approved on final reading number 4902 and ordered published by title only.
Thank you. Councilmember Marriott, you wish to speak?
I do. So I'll be voting no on this. Now, I realize the council's action here is just to set this to the ballot, and the change would actually be made by the voters of the city of Arvada as it's a charter change, and that we're not the ones who would be allowing or disallowing. But the reason I'm voting no is a couple reasons. One, this has been the status for more than 30 years now, as reported by our city attorney, and certainly in my 12 years up here, this is the first time we've had any trouble with, or any perceived trouble with, having relief judges. I think the presentation accurately showed that there were some positives for judges living in Arvada, and then there was the flip side of each and every one of those positives. There was a negative as well. The reality is that there is not one that's better than another. Personally, I don't see that, even if I will acknowledge that maybe as of late or just recently there has been some difficulty gaining enough relief judge talent or enough relief judges for the court just very recently. It certainly hasn't been a problem for 35 years, or this would have been before the Arvada City Council long ago. I do understand that in 2021, when we looked at the charter through a charter review committee, this was one of the things that came up, but it also was not one of the things that made the top list of things that it was worth asking the residents to change the charter on. I really view the charter as that's the people's document. That specifies by the residents what the government is to do, and more importantly, what the limitations on the government are. And I don't think that by this time there are mistakes necessarily in the charter. Doesn't mean there are not things that can and should be revised over time. To me, this just does not come anywhere close to reaching that. And so I would rather not see it on the ballot. So that's why I'm going to vote no, even though I will absolutely acknowledge this is whether Arvada has relief judges that are not Arvada residents or not is not my decision to make. That's the voters' decision to make. And I suspect that they will be weighing in on that in November. But for me, I'm a no for putting this on the ballot.
Councilmember Pfeiffer.
I think this is a great idea. We had put it on the ballot before. Unfortunately, it didn't pass with some other ones. But, you know, this is needed because we're a growing city. We already know the growing pains. I suspect in the near future, we may be running 2 or 3 courtrooms. And right now, we can't have a single judge, running even 90% of the time on the bench, which I appreciate, completely. But she also has a department to run. And have people like you to help her, obviously. But, I think she lived right on the edge of the county, if I remember right. Mm-hmm. It was like literally the city limits was across the street kind of thing, and we made her move. That has happened, and that's unfortunate to force people to do that if they wanted their job, or this job. But I do believe that Arvada deserves to have the best qualified person that's out there, and I think the best way to do it is just like the other cities who have recruited or got relief judges or full-time judges from other areas, and I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I do agree that there's some skin in the game, but now that my kids just left for college, and they came here and watched Judge Kurtz one day, and I said, well, why were you here? It's because all their friends were here. Well, oh, by the way, my kids are friends with Judge Kurtz's kids. And, this is the problem that starts happening, and she has to recuse herself, or she has to, and because she is so ingrained into the community with lacrosse and everything else, this does cause a challenge. And that's not fair to her. It's not fair to the community that happens. So I think this is the best thing to keep the judge fair. No, my kids were not in trouble. I just don't know why they were watching. I do not think coming here to watch is like excitement as a teenager. I hated coming to court, which I did a few times. But this completely makes sense when they told me that, hey, they were here to see friends, and then I asked Judge Kurtz about it, and she knows the kids' parents or something, and that's a problem. So I think we deserve better, and I hope this time the voters, this is a very easy ask. There is one that says, even a city council member cannot work for another city, but you can work for a state or a county, but you can't work for a city. So, there are some charter things that just doesn't make sense that should be adjusted. But if we were to pick one, I think this is an easy one to resolve an issue where we're growing into the next, I say in the next few years, we're going to need definitely 2 or 3 courtrooms running. So this makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Mayor Pro Tim Mormon.
Thank you, Mayor, and appreciate the presentation tonight, and appreciate Judge Kurtz and her efforts on this. She's done a good job of educating us about this and the need. I agree with Councilmember Pfeiffer. Our community is changing and growing, and we need to be able to adjust with that. And I think that the charter needs to be a living document that evolves with our community. And so I think that this is an opportunity to check with the voters and let them decide if this is the right time to make that change. So I support this. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Rupert.
So Judge Kurtz has done a presentation a couple of times to us, and part of the presentation is her demonstration that the increase in caseloads makes it very difficult to maintain judicial efficiency, get to all the cases in a timely way. And if you are in a position of having to bring in relief judges and you don't have them available, it keeps the doors from opening in the courtroom. And the courtroom is a 5-day-a-week operation, and it needs to have that kind of stability, and it has to have that kind of efficiency. And I think the numbers warrant it. The city is changing, the city is growing, and as we are becoming more fully staffed in the police department, the caseload is increasing even more. So I think it's warranted, and if the residency requirement is an obstacle to us getting highly qualified judiciary, then we ought to ask the voters to change that. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. With that, all votes are cast. That passes 5-1, with Councilmember Marriott being a dissenting vote and Councilmember Ambrose being an excused absence.
Thank you.
Next, I will open the hearing for CB 25-017, an ordinance authorizing a Fourth Amendment to the development agreement pertaining to vested rights for Cimarron Park, ordinance number 4903. Manager of City Planning and Development, Mr. Rob Smetana.
Thank you. As you mentioned, this is a request to amend the development agreement pertaining to vested rights for the Cimarron Park development, which is part of the Candelas development. This is a request to extend that period, which was originally set at 5 years in the development agreement, but has subsequently been extended. This would allow the extension for another 10 years between 2025 and 2035. Staff does recommend approval of the request.
All right, open it to Councilmember Pfeiffer. You were first.
Oh, is this for the public first to comment on, or?
Oh, do you have questions or?
That's correct. We would need public comment.
Okay, apologies. Is there anyone in the public who wishes to give comment on this item at this time? Seeing none, I will close public comment. Mr. Pfeiffer?
I do have a question. So in your report, it said the infrastructure improvements referenced in subsection 2.3 of the agreement have been completed with the exception of a traffic signal on State Highway 72 and Candelas Parkway and the 12x8 RCB crossing at Twin Lake Basin. But it says which no longer is required. Why is that?
That is a good question. I know Mr. McKay is here. I don't know if he has the background on that, but that was the information we received. But there still is the one improvement that needs to be made. That's a definite improvement that needs to be made and would then be covered under this vested right.
What's the one improvement?
It is the traffic signals along Highway 72 and Candelas Parkway.
Okay, so that stays in the agreement?
Correct, yes, sorry.
But I don't know what the RCB is, crossing at Twin Lakes Basin. Is that what's not needed any longer?
That's correct, just that one.
But do you know what an RCB is?
I do not.
Where's our traffic folks? Okay. Okay, but the traffic signal is in. The traffic signal is still in. I just want to make sure we do not remove that. That is
correct.
Getting
the
more
traffic
and more busy. And with the Quantum Commons coming in right there, I absolutely am not forgiving on giving up a signal there.
Yes, that's correct. All those signals still remain as improvements that need to be made.
Okay, when there's not any other questions, I'll make the motion.
Councilmember Davis. Okay. Councilmember Pfeiffer, you have the motion.
I move that Council Bill 25-017, an ordinance authorizing a Fourth Amendment to the development agreement pertaining to the vested rights of Cimarron Park, be approved on final reading numbered 4903 and ordered published by title only.
Councilmember Davis, you wish to speak?
Yes. I would like to thank Mr. Smentana's team for explaining to me what a vested the vested rights are. That was very exciting because I didn't know what that was.
Well, would you like to give us a recap?
I'm going to allow Mr. Smentana to do it because
But it's true. It's a pretty wonky term. Please.
It made it sound like what your team said was it's what was agreed upon at the time, what the zoning was, and what all the rules were at the time, and that they would maintain those types of rights into the future so that they wouldn't have to just do some unnecessary workarounds to meet new requirements.
Yes, that's correct. Basically, our land development code has limitations on the length of approvals, but we do have the ability to extend those through a development agreement. So basically, that is correct. This allows the development to continue under the original approval for the time period that's granted with that extension.
Everybody learned something new today. All right, with that, all the votes are cast. That passes 6-0 with Councilmember Ambrose being an excused absence. Next, I will open CB-018, an ordinance authorizing a third amendment to the development agreement pertaining to vested rights for Vauxmont, Ordinance 4904. Mr. Smentana again.
Yes, as with the previous case, this is a piece of the Candelas development, and it's essentially the same request to extend the early vested period for within that development agreement until August of 2035, and staff is supportive.
Any public comment on this particular item at this time? Seeing none, I will close public comment, open it to council questions or action. Councilmember Pfeiffer.
I don't have any other questions, assuming, because Vauxmont's a different a different funding arm of that. I mean, Cimarron's the developers, Vauxmont's the funding.
There are two, Beaumont, yeah, it's a very small piece, but it is a physical piece of property within the development.
Okay. Yeah, I'll make the motion if there's any other questions.
I see no other lights.
I move that Council Bill 25018, an ordinance authorizing a third amendment to the development agreement pertaining to the vested rights of Vauxmont, be approved on final reading numbered 4904 and ordered published by title only.
Okay. That passes 6-0 with Councilmember Ambrose being an excused absence. Now, I know the vast majority of folks here tonight are here for CB 25-019, but we've also all been sitting for an hour and a half, so I'm going to use my prerogative to call a 5-minute recess, stretch your legs, get some water, go to the bathroom if you need it, and then we'll pick this up at 7:33. Okay, welcome back, everybody. I appreciate you taking a break with us. I know it was more than 5 minutes by just a few minutes there, but it felt good to stretch the legs. So now I will open the public hearing for CB 25-019, an ordinance amending various provisions of Arvada's Land Development Code of the Arvada City Code. Ordinance number 4905. Our presenter this evening is Ms. Rosalind Thompson, our principal planner.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, and council members. Yes, so tonight I will be giving a presentation regarding proposed updates to the Land Development Code. But before I begin my presentation, I would like to respond to a few items that have been raised by the public. Katie, can you bring up Chapter 2 of the Land Development Code? Actually, bring up Chapter 3. There we go. So what this is these are the land use tables. So what they point out are what are allowed uses, which is shown by the letter A, conditional uses, which are shown by the letter C, and if there isn't a letter at all, then that use is prohibited. So this, the first point I like to address is about the open space zoning district. So first, the proposed amendments do not add hospitals to the list of permitted uses in the open space zoning district. Staff is only proposing to add public facilities to section 2-1-3-1A to broaden the types of facilities included in this list that are also allowed uses in the OS zoning district. So public facilities is intended to be inclusive of public lands, parks, schools, and buildings, which are all allowed uses in the open space zoning district. Second.
Quickly,
yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Mormon.
I'm sorry, I just wanted some clarification on that. I appreciate you explaining this. So when you say it's public buildings, what falls under that category?
Okay, so public buildings is defined in 11-3-3-1, and let me pull that up. So a public building is defined in the LDC as any building held, used, or controlled exclusively for public purposes by any department or branch of government, state, county, municipality, or special district without reference to the ownership of the building or the realty upon which it's situated.
And the intent of this is that in our open spaces, we often need a public building to manage that open space. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And so this definition is something that is used as best practice throughout Colorado. Is that a correct statement?
I don't know about best practices in Colorado, but it's in our code.
But we see it in other commonly used
Right.
in other codes.
Correct.
We're not unique in having public facility in our open space use. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Davis.
Yes, thank you. So would it be fair to say a public building could be the buildings at Majestic View Nature Center?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, if I may, Councilmember Davis, that is correct. We also have Apex facilities that are in open space districts of the recreation centers. That gives you a flavor of buildings that are in the open space district today. And this proposed, the change that's proposed is to the purpose of that district, not to the actual use table, as Rosalind explained.
Please continue forward.
Okay, so second, the proposed amendments do not propose adding industrial uses as permitted uses in residential zoning districts. We're not amending the tables at all to include industrial uses in residential zoning districts. Third, natural medicine facilities will only be allowed where medical office uses are permitted, as will be the case for natural medicine healing centers, and light industrial uses are permitted, as would be the case for natural medicine cultivation, manufacturing, and testing facilities. Neither medical office uses nor light industrial uses are allowed in residential zoning districts. Further, The definitions of medical office and light industrial refers to state law regulations for additional requirements, such as buffer distance of 1,000 feet. Fourth, alkaline hydrolysis is added to the definition of cremation to align the definition of cremation to that of the state. In 2011, the state legislature removed the phrase direct exposure to intense heat from its definition of cremation to allow also water cremation or alkaline hydrolysis. As for effluent and water treatment issues associated with alkaline hydrolysis, Metro Water Recovery prohibits discharge from those kinds of facilities as part of their rules and regulations. Specifically, Section 6.14.22 in the Metro Water Recovery Rules and Regulations prohibits any water or wastewater from alkaline hydrolysis or other chemical decomposition processes of human or animal tissues, remains, or bodies. As businesses open in Arvada, we would refer them to Metro or notify Metro ourselves so that they can obtain a zero discharge permit. To our knowledge, there's a facility served by Arvada Sewer, and it's unincorporated, that has a zero discharge permit, and they haul this waste off-site for disposal. Last, turning to the potential errors in the red lines, I will defer to Rob Smetana, Planning Manager, to address that issue, and also Norrin Steenson from our City Manager's Office.
Yes, so we did find the errors that were pointed out, and they are not actually, and this was an email that you received earlier today, I believe. The errors are not actually with this proposed ordinance. They actually date back to an ordinance 4810 in 2022. And that was when we discussed truck trips. For those of you who are around, that was quite a contentious item. So I understand those wanting to be correct. We did evaluate that previous ordinance to discover one section was not part of that ordinance that should have been regarding 60 heavy truck trips as it relates to the heavy industry land use definition. And we ended up with two definitions for light industry. So we do have some language for you. If you would hope to amend those as part of this ordinance, we can get those all straightened out. We believe all the rest of this particular ordinance is correct.
Okay, thank you. Do you have any more, Ms. Thompson?
Oh, yes, I do.
Okay.
Katie, can you turn back to the slide? Thank you. So the amendments to the Land Development Code, or LDC, in this presentation can be divided into three topic areas. Those that are miscellaneous updates to the LDC, those that are related to Proposition 122, access to natural psychedelic substances, and SB 23-290, read together as the natural medicine regulations, and those that are related to HB 24-1007, residential occupancy limits. The purpose of the amendments is to clarify, update, and correct items in the LDC and to align the LDC with the state legislation. This presentation will begin with an overview of categories of miscellaneous amendments to the LDC with examples of the proposed amendments. The presentation will then turn to the proposed natural medicine regulations, then end with a brief discussion of the amendments related to residential occupancy. So this is an example of the first category of amendments, those that clarify and refine existing LDC regulations and definitions. This is referring to the open space purpose section of 2-1-3-1 of the LDC. So the facilities listed in the Parks and Open Space zoning district is under inclusive. Staff is proposing to add language to broaden the types of permitted facilities, including public facilities included in this list. Again, this does not add uses that are not permitted to this list. Here's an example of the next category of amendments, updating technical and substantive requirements. In Table 2-1-4-2A, mixed use, suburban lot and building standards, the maximum outdoor display area percentage is not called out. For consistency with other tables and sections of the LDC, 0% will replace a dash in the table. This is an example of the final category of miscellaneous amendments, correcting typographical errors, omissions, and incorrect provisions. In Section 5-1-2-3C2C of the LDC, for example, the two different types of metal panels are not distinguished. This is an example of an omission, the omission of the word or. Or will be added to convey that metal panels with corrugated appearance are separate from metal panels with exposed fasteners. On to the natural medicine regulation amendments. For background, in 2022, Colorado voters approved Proposition 122, Access to Natural Psychedelic Substances, establishing a statewide regulatory framework for natural medicine. In 2023, the Colorado legislature enacted SB 23-290, Natural Medicine Regulation legislation, to amend the statewide regulatory framework. Natural medicine includes psilocybin and psilocin, which are typically found in mushrooms. Under the law, local jurisdictions can regulate time, place, and manner of operations of natural medicine businesses. However, local jurisdictions cannot prohibit the establishment or operation of natural medicine businesses, prohibit the transportation of natural medicine on public roads by licensed persons, or adopt regulations that are unreasonable or conflict with state law. To comply with state law, the following definitions in the LDC are proposed to be amended. Light industry to include natural medicine cultivation facility, a natural medicine products manufacturer, or a natural medicine testing facility pursuant to the Colorado Natural Medicine Code in Article 50, Title 44, CRS, and associated state rules. Also, medical office will be amended to include a natural medicine healing center where a state licensed facilitator provides and supervises natural medicine services, including administration of natural medicine without any retail sale of natural medicine consistent with state law.
Councilmember Davis.
Yes, thank you for this. And so I just want to make sure that I'm clear, and this is clarified, that Colorado voters voted these amendments in, which also includes Arvada, correct? For the natural medicines?
That's correct, Proposition 122.
Okay, thank you.
Can I ask a point of clarification with that?
Sure.
Because I thought with the marijuana, we did have a right, but we don't have with the mushrooms.
Can you repeat that?
So on the marijuana, when that came out, maybe our city attorney can help with that.
2013.
Yeah, back in the day, we were, it was home rule that we can decide if we wanted marijuana facilities within our city or not, and we have not allowed that. So we're saying that the mushrooms is something that we cannot prohibit in our city like we do with marijuana?
That's correct. That's in the statute.
Yeah,
Okay,
I
but
think
it
that's
didn't
because
pull
of
in the
retail sale.
But it didn't pull in the marijuana side, right? No. Yeah, okay. Thank you.
Welcome. The last topic area is HB 24-1007 residential occupancy limits. According to HB 24-1007, local governments are prohibited from limiting the number of people who may live together in a single dwelling based on familial relationship. However, local governments retain the authority to implement residential occupancy limits based only on health and safety standards and affordable housing program guidelines. To comply with the state legislation, amendments including replacing single-family detached with single-unit detached are proposed throughout the LDC. Staff recommends that based upon project analysis and review of the Land Development Code approval criteria, that the City Council approve CB 25-019, an ordinance amending various provisions of Arvada's Land Development Code, of the Arvada City Code, including Amendment Item 13, which relates to allowing hotels, motels, and as a conditional use in the MXS zoning district. That concludes staff's presentation. I'm available to answer any questions that council may have.
Before we open it to council questions, I would like to open it to public comment. I know this is going to be a bit of a hot one tonight. So, well, come on up, everybody. So, same rules for public comment that were given at the beginning of the meeting apply to public comment in hearings. And I will just go in the order of whatever I have for the papers. And first, I will invite up Mr. Mike Schweitzer.
I'd like to go a little later.
You'd like to go later? Sure. Gina Hallisey. Welcome back.
Hi there, Gina Hallisey. I'm here to speak on behalf of the Ralston Valley Coalition. I live in Maple Valley, and as you have noticed, I'm wearing the RVC uniform. We're bringing the green shirts out of retirement as a show of solidarity in our collective desire to protect the parks and open space in Arvada. The city has a huge investment in parks and open space, and the community is invested also. Having so many parks and open space areas to enjoy is one of the main reasons people choose to live in Arvada. We will continue to remind you through public comment or by wearing the green shirt that what you may see as insignificant little changes to the LDC may someday negatively affect the parks and open space we cherish. I won't go into detail on all the issues we have with the LDC package of 67 amendments, as others are speaking to many of those, but I do want to bring something important we are seeing in Arvada to your attention. In today's disconnected, divided world we live in, elected officials walk a fine line in keeping the public trust. Every decision you make is seen through the lens of who it benefits. Does it benefit your constituents? Or does it help developers? Or your pet project? Or some ideology you feel you need to abide by to stay in political good graces? I would caution you that losing the public trust doesn't serve Arvadans. Engaging with the public and truly listening to their concerns and needs, then acting appropriately and responsibly to protect Arvadans will go a long way in building public trust. The city will be stronger and more vibrant when the community is engaged. I'm living proof of that as to our CWPP in Maple Valley. I would guess that many people here feel the same way when I say we're here. We show up, we do the work on things we care about, and we share it with you, all to help in the development process in the hopes that together we can build an Arvada that is a better place to live. It's compatible with what we have now, where we live, and it protects citizens' rights as well. It's your turn to decide how you engage in this process after listening to the public. You can choose to work for citizens, or you can choose to disregard our voices. You have a big role as a council member, and it's an important decision to change the LDC. And we want to remind you, it's the citizens who elected you that you serve. So if a hospital is not allowed in open space, why are you adding that language to allow a hospital in open space? So it's been struck. So that's great if it has. So keep in mind that IL infill also quite often adjoins residential uses. So I would encourage you to look at some of those things. If you're going to allow mushrooms facilities in IL, you should look at a 1,000-foot buffer because there are homes that live adjacent to IL properties. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Rich Bowling.
Good evening. My name is Richard Bowling. I reside at 14991 West 70th Avenue in Arvada. Thanks for the opportunity to address you. Make some general comments first. I have a problem with the number of amendments that, in my opinion, don't have proper rationale and justification. The majority don't say what problem prompted them. There had to be a problem prompting these to be added. Was it a developer saying something? Was it actually a problem administering it? Don't know. That's not been put on there. It seems that staff should be keeping records of these things, otherwise it wouldn't show up. It seems that a significant number of the proposed amendments are intended to aid or be favorable to the developers. That's from the public perspective. We don't know who's complaining about these things. Are developers complaining about the code? Where are the code complaints registered? Then why won't the information be revealed? Any of these amendments meant to codify decisions by the Director of Community and Economic Development? Don't know where those are codified or captured. That leads me into director discretion. There are 5 amendments giving director of planning more power. These are objectionable. The director already has immense powers in decision-making, interpretation, and exercising discretion. I believe it was not too long ago, I think about 3 years ago, that one of the council members admitted that probably gave the director too much discretion. I think it's time you go back and say, hold the director discretion and see what needs to be done on that. Because are we going to have a director of planning, or are we going to have a city council that actually makes some decisions too? The director is mentioned 466 times in the LDC. City council's only mentioned, I think, 127. Doesn't make any sense to give him more power. He's an unelected official. So I urge rejection of those amendments at present. Quick one on bituminous. We talked about that in the Planning Commission. It's a technical term. I think there needs to be an actual definition because it is a technical term and you just can't look it up and say what it is. I'm an engineer familiar with that field. It needs a actual definition. So thanks.
Thank you. Next, we have Paul and Lynette Gottler. You're not going to speak? Okay, sorry. All right. Confirming Tom Hallisey does not wish to speak? Okay, perfect. I'd just like to check because sometimes people change their minds. So, Mike Rollick. Now, we know you're going to speak.
Quickly, too, there's not enough time. Do I have to re-announce who I am in my address or just start in? All right, Mike Rollick, 18735 West 59 Drive, Golden, Colorado, 80003. Psilocybin Natural Medicine, CML, has a position that Arvada can regulate time, manner, and place consistent with law. I think the code should mention state mandated setback in CRS 445302 Delta 1 and add reference to Colorado State Natural Medicine Rules 1 CCR 213.1. Accent, secure facility information, visitor log, waste material log, adverse health events, safety data sheets for pesticides and hazmat, security plan, ingress and egress plans, video surveillance and waste disposal. At a minimum, also apply Arvada Ag rules to facility setbacks. Right now, you can grow regular mushrooms. You need more setback than psilocybin mushrooms, which doesn't make any sense. Then you need 75 feet for a facility. Bragg. Adopt Parker's LDC provisions to include 1,000-foot setbacks in residences as well as not just the schools and daycare. Secure waste disposal, hours of operation. Who needs treatment at midnight? Really, that'd be partying. Drainage, HVAC, spore control, odor over property lines rules, hazmat prohibition. They have that with butane. CML has published this information. This is all legal to do within state law. Consider limits on pesticides, non-GMO, maybe natural only. Non-invasive species. HB 251063 allows for use of synthetic psilocybin, FDA approved, and that means growing in E. coli vats. Alkaline hydrolysis should have a standalone definition. The federal definition, 16 CFR 453.1, cremation is a heating process which incinerates human remains. So the federal and the state are out of sync with each other. Decide what you want to do there. The contrast is that the disposal of waste from cremation stays in an urn. Hydrolysis can transmit effluent to the water system, despite what we heard. Water Quality Control Division talked to me about that, and you can get an individual waste industrial permit. And she says, I'm not specifically aware of acclimation facilities in Colorado that send their waste to municipal wastewater, but that could be a disposal option as well. Just understand it can go there. So it should have a separate entry and a separate process. Parks and open space, we keep hearing this. I just downloaded this right now. Red lines include public hospitals on the purpose. So it's right there. It says public hospitals from August 19th. Don't know why that's not being talked about. We talk about it. I know people don't believe us, but it's right there in red. Purpose. Public utilities are conditional uses or limited uses. Why do they have to be included as a purpose? Conditional limited would be ancillary use, not a purpose when it comes to parks and open space. And that's table .3.1.2.9. Single-family, HB 1007, just saying there's 273 municipalities. If everyone comes up with their own definition, good luck for VA, FHA loans, insurance issues. I say stay with single-family, but make the caveat that you are going to follow 1007. That way people don't lose their loan process.
Right.
Sorry, that's fast.
Thank you. Well done, Mr. Rawlick. All right. Ms. Elizabeth Sanders, you do not wish to speak? Confirming? Okay, correct. Karen Gerbach.
Let's see if we can. Make it bigger. Okay. Karen Gerbach, 6872 Juniper Court, here in Arvada. This is, the red line is what is projected to be added. Am I correct? The red words, what we were given in the packet for the staff. I didn't, no, the original one. I also would like to share, since this has been covered, so this is an article. Use this picture. The point, and I guess I'm running out of time.
Oh,
is that-
please speak into the microphone.
The point is that we don't understand why the wording is being changed or what additions are being made. Longmont and Boulder County, I've just given you an opinion piece as to something that they're considering by swapping some open land to be able to put a composting facility in for Boulder County. So I just ask you to step back, not make a decision on this until there's a lot more information coming as to what could be. Yes, adding a building to Majestic View could be a no-brainer, but adding some other public facilities, what exactly does that cover, and why would we want to put it in open space?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Patty Shannon.
Thank you. Patricia Shannon, Patty Shannon, 6526 Umber Circle, Arvada. I'm the treasurer of Trail Ridge Villas HOA. And of course, we've been all very concerned about the open space and parks. That's one of the reasons that makes Arvada so, makes us want to live here, such a desirable place. So I think we need to get the wording on this resolved. I'm hearing 3 or 4 different things tonight. But I just want to go on the record that building hospitals on parks and open spaces, not what the voters approved when there was a referendum for 30 parks in 1974. So I would like to make sure that that is resolved and recommunicated, that it doesn't just get slid under the table and we don't ever hear the results. The other piece, I know others have spoken about it, but the director discretion. When I read through, I'm new to Arvada in the last couple of years, and when I read through word by word, I understand that the code is the law, and that's what we have to abide by, and that's what developers have to abide by. And when you see the words, or just the discretion of the director, it's like it removes that rule. And that is very difficult for me to get behind. I think the rules need to be written clearly, and when someone wants a variance from that, there should be a public hearing to discuss it, because the rules should be the rules. It shouldn't be the director's discretion as often as it is and appears to be. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, we have Tony Rollick.
I speak slower than Mike. Tony Rawlick, 6070 Virgil Street, Arvada. Now, I was really happy to hear you say about the Arvada Center that it was voter approved. And as I look at, as you mentioned, the bond issue, 1974, $3.4 million creating 30 parks. When you establish these parks, you establish a covenant with the residents, all right? We paid the money and assume this is not a land bank. These are permanent, forever open space and parks. And when I look at the code, it says real property, it's 13.2. Real property owned, purchased, or granted for use and used by the city for park purposes shall not be sold or conveyed without a majority vote of the registered electors voting on the question, which is, I assume, is the populace. So I don't see how it can be just changed. The language in the proposed change is so vague and so open-ended that it frightens me because it's not specific. I was reading the other day and I saw a quote from Teddy Roosevelt. He said, "When liberty becomes licensed, some form of one-man power is not far distant." And I think that applies here because we are giving directors and staff more power. Now, I understand that the way the situation is with meetings, they get to go last, and they'll say my fears are just overstated, not realistic. The problem is what is written and not what is said is what counts. And the vagueness of what's being proposed tonight is such that I worry lawyers 5 years down the road say, hey, we can do this because that's what it says. And people say, we were at the meetings. That's not the intent. And they'll go, that's what it says. So this really has to be cleaned up. I don't think it should be passed in the current form. It's too vague, too unspecific, and gives way too much power to unelected officials on staff. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next, we have Phil Lankford.
My name is Phil Lankford. I live at 16878 West 65th Circle in Arvada. I agree with all the other concerns about the changes in the LDC. One of my concerns is the proposed deletion of Section 4-5-3-9 in the Land Development Code, which currently addresses snow storage. Staff's reasons for the deletion of the section are the section is outdated and unnecessary. How is it unnecessary and outdated? What replaces this section? It was added in 2020 by the consultant. The large portion of the LDC was contributed by the consultant. Are these going to be deleted in the future for the same reason? Such a provision did not exist in the previous LDC. How can this be a reason? A lot of sections did not exist prior to 2020. There has been no benefit since the adoption of the 2020 LDC. How is this measured? Where are the records? The city staff basically is said that the requirement is outdated and unnecessary. My question is why? As residents of Arvada, we know it snows here every year, usually around 7 feet, actually. Often we see snow as being plowed into public roads, which is not only unsafe, but illegal under both state law and Arvada's own municipal code. Colorado Statute 43-5-301 clearly prohibits the placement of snow onto public roadways, including ditches and right-of-ways. Arvada echoes this in the statute 302-3-3, which governs snow and ice control. Given these laws, it only makes sense that the city would require developers to designate on-site areas for snow storage. Removing this requirement raises a number of serious questions. Where does the snow go? If there's no designated space on the property, where does the runoff go, especially during rapid melts or storms? What are the implications of water quality, the storm systems? And with increased density and development, how can we ensure that snow is managed safely and legally? Removing this provision feels less like progress and more like a concession to developers.
Sir, quickly, your time's expired, but I'll give you just a couple seconds to wrap your thoughts.
Okay. This is not a minor detail. This is public safety, legal compliance, and environmental issue. I urge the city to retain the snow storage language in the LDC and ensure that developers are required to account for snow on their own sites.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Mike Schweitzer?
Hello, Mayor Simpson and City Council. Thank you for allowing me to speak tonight. I live at 14615 West 62nd Place, Arvada. While my peers have addressed several items that I was going to bring up, and I think we've all, you said earlier, Mayor Simpson, we've all learned something new tonight. We've learned a couple of things new tonight. I want to talk to a couple of points regarding the LDC. First of all, I'm going to ask the City Council to postpone the vote on this tonight. I think voting on 67 items and a blanket without more public awareness, a workshop possibly, is irresponsible and doesn't serve the public agenda. I also want to address, as my partner Phil did earlier, I want to further address the 3138F1C2 for the decision for elected officials, the decision for director level authority. That goes against elected officials and the foundation and design of our government. I think some of these items, there are so many items in the LDC amendments, of 67 amendments, that need much more careful alignment and adjustment and analysis. That's all I need. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in chambers who would like to give public comment at this time? Seeing none, I will close the public comment portion of this evening's hearing. I will also note that council did receive numerous public comments that were submitted electronically before. We were given printouts of all of those. So if you were amongst those individuals, please know that your comments were seen and reviewed by all of us. With that, I will open it to council questions. Mayor Pro Tem Moorman.
Thank you, Mayor. So I do have a question. Well, I have several questions, but to start, on section 231A, Parks and Open Space Purpose, I understood in our previous conversation that hospitals weren't included, and as was pointed out by public comment, it's right there. Can I get a further explanation for that?
So it's in there, and if council wants to consider striking it, they can.
Yes, if I may.
Yeah.
I believe that was supposed to stop when this is quality control and we will take the blame, but it should have stopped with "and public facilities" and nothing beyond that statement.
So no including whatever?
No.
Okay, so we would strike all of that, and and I'll get direction from our attorney on how to do that when we make the motion, but I would definitely like that removed.
Yeah. We can take that under advisement. We'll create some language for council once we get down to the vote.
Thank you. I just think we need to be protecting our open spaces for what they are for, and so I feel like striking that language would be to that intent. So something that hasn't come up, but I know that the Planning Commission brought up is item number 13. So can we talk about that? I would like to get some more understanding on that. So we have MXS, MXU, and MXT. Can you clarify the difference between those three to start, please?
So the main distinction between those three is that MXS is a little bit more suburban, whereas UNT are denser. And so the proposal of allowing hotels and motels in the MXS zoning district considers that. And that's why they're proposed to be allowed only through conditional use permit and not allowed by right.
But there's also the restaurants piece in this too, right?
Yes, so that's just a clarification. They're actually limited, and those limitations are in the code. So A is changed to L.
From allowed to limited.
Yes.
Okay, so we have restaurants changing from allowed to limited, and hotels and motels are changed from what to what?
From prohibited to conditional use in the MXS.
Okay, and I just need some explanation for why we're doing that, I guess. I'm still not understanding that, and then if you could also address what were the concerns raised by, I read through the Planning Commission's report, and I just did not get what was discussed clearly from that.
So I actually have a rationale in the matrix that's provided as an attachment to the staff report, and I can go ahead and give you the rationale under that matrix. So under the comprehensive plan, MXS, MXU, and MXT zoning districts are those found within the mixed-use land use designation. The purpose of the mixed-use land use designation is, and this is quoting from the comprehensive plan, to promote a wide range of land uses, including retail, office, light industrial, live work, and medium and higher density residential. Hotels, motels are envisioned as one of the land uses allowed in the mixed-use land use designation, given that hotels, motels are allowed uses in the MXU and MXT zoning districts, per table 3-1-2-4 of the LDC. However, hotels, motels are currently prohibited in the MX zoning district. This change would allow hotels, motels in the MXS zoning district as a conditional use. Allowing hotels, motels in MXS would be consistent with allowing hotels, motels in the MXU and MXT zoning districts. However, hotels, motels proposed in the MXS zoning district would be subject to the conditional use process because MXS zoning districts are generally located adjacent to lower density residential districts, and any potential impacts to those districts could be considered through the conditional use permit process.
So, I guess I'm still not clear on, we have these three different designations, MXS, MXU, and MXT, and what I'm hearing is we're making this change to make them more alike. Can we?
Yes, but however, in MXS, they can only be allowed through conditional use. So
Right.
There's a potential of denying an application for a hotel motel in the MXS zoning district because it's subject to a discretionary process.
Okay, and so the Planning Commission denied that, correct?
That's correct.
And their reasoning was?
If I recall, their reasoning was that the proximity to lower density residential districts, that was their concern.
Right, okay.
And if I can just briefly add on to that, please. While we are trying to align the uses across the districts, there are design standards that are different. So by including hotels, motels in the MXS, that doesn't automatically mean it takes the same form or function or height. It is just simply saying we are trying to align the uses, but the dimensional standards, the design standards are all still different amongst those three districts.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, I have a couple more questions, and then I will pass it on to my fellow council members. So the IL and the concerns raised about silicilium, and I know you addressed that also at the beginning. So the setback requirements, the state has setback requirements from residential to have an establishment that's dealing with silicilium. Is that correct?
Not from residential, from schools,
Okay, from
preschools,
schools.
elementary schools.
Okay.
Yes, but not from residential.
So, and the changes that we are making in the land development code, obviously, we would still have to meet the requirements that are set out by the state around those facilities, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Okay, I think I will stop now. I may have more questions later, but I'll let others speak.
Councilmember Pfeiffer.
So any conditional use obviously requires planning and city council, right? I mean, so I just want to make sure that's on the record. So any of those conditional uses will come up to us. On the director approval process, and I'm one of those that have hesitant on giving more authority, but we have a call-up procedure. Is that not correct? So any council member can call up we have a, what is it, 14-day, 21-day?
17 days.
17 day? Oh, what a weird number you picked. Yeah. Calendar days or business days? We might as well clarify that too.
It's calendar
Okay.
days. When we set it up, it aligned with council meetings.
Okay. But we have 17 days to call that up. And I know we have that ability, and I think I'm thinking Randy might have done it one time, if I remember right. But you can call up.
I did try to call up, and it did not pass by the council.
But you tried.
Yeah, it deadlocked in a 3-3. It was the In-N-Out Burger hearing, and Councilmember Foray was absent that day.
So I think I'm not too worried about that because we have that process and in there. The other thing, looking at at least what I understand from all the paperwork I've seen and what's been presented tonight, some of this is state laws requiring us to adjust our land development code, so that's way outside of our hands. And if you can imagine, if we were not in that lawsuit, all of you would have to go to the state capitol to talk about your land use issues. That's one thing we need to protect. So we couldn't have this conversation if certain laws get passed by the state legislators. But that all aside, what else do I have? Oh, snow storage. So question, why was that struck exactly? I don't know who I'm talking to, actually. Do you want to take it, or do you want to take it?
I can take it.
Okay.
The snow storage requirement was added in 2020. What we found out was that was then being kind of double stacked with open space. So they were designating snow storage areas, and it was in landscape areas that were then kind of being unusable during certain times of the year. We went back and tried to evaluate where we were prior to 2020 when we did not have a snow storage requirement. As was mentioned, you can't push it out into the public street. Typically, it was then located within parking areas, and a lot of sites still do that don't have that requirement. And we found that was not a significant issue as it related to parking, and it also helped preserve the landscape areas that were essentially being destroyed by the snow storage areas. That's why we are recommending that be eliminated.
Okay. And then Mr. Ehrlich made a good point, and he spoke way too fast. I can only write 3 words down because you were so fast. But all I said is reference law. He referenced some laws, specifically what popped in my head. I think it was the mushrooms you were talking about. Do we need, I feel like some of this, because this is outside of our control, I feel like some of this should be referenced back to state law, and we should just default there. And I didn't catch that inside of the LDC.
Yeah, that it is, we do specifically reference the state requirements, and then the state has set up a whole nother set of policies that apply
But
and
we
regulations that
referenced
apply.
that. so
Yes, and
that-
those are all referenced in the state law, yeah.
Okay. And then the last question I had was in the table 3124, which is the restaurants and so forth. Why did we make it limited and mixed use? And what does limited really mean? Just so we can make sure we're all on the same page. We went from allowed to limited.
So that adds an additional standards to restaurants, some operational standards. They're still allowed by right. It's just that they have additional standards that apply to them.
So what would be the standards, like time of operation, where they store their grease
Trash,
traps?
right, exactly.
Okay, so we want to make sure they come in and talk to us before they just go in and open up a restaurant.
Well, we want to make sure that they comply with the code because all those standards are enumerated in the code. In that particular section that relates to restaurant uses. So what the table does is it actually references that section of the code that are the standards for restaurants.
Okay. Yeah, I just want to make sure we don't create a barrier because in mixed uses, that's one of the biggest things, especially today's day and age, is restaurants being in mixed use, you know, the food down below, living up above, or offices or whatever up above. I just want to make sure we don't create a barrier for that to happen. And then the last thing, actually, I think I'm okay. I might have one more later.
Absolutely. Councilmember Davis.
Yes, thank you, and thank you for the presentation. I am just going back on some of my former professional positions. I do know that when I was what is now the Metro Water Recovery District, it used to be Metro Wastewater Reclamation District. Part of the Part B permit was that discharge from any kind of bodily fluids was not allowed to go to the wastewater plant. And I do know, being from the city and county of Denver, when the ME's office was built out, there was a separate holding tank for bodily fluids. So I know that those things are not going to the wastewater plant, and we're following that as well. True?
True. So they have to get a zero discharge permit from Metro Recovery.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, I thought so, and I just wanted to make that clear that is something that the city moves forward with. I would say that there are other bodily fluids that are going to Metro that we see too, and I see quizzical faces, but everybody flushes a toilet. So I just want to make sure that we understand that there are certain uses that Metro does prohibit, and stormwater and bodily fluids from certain businesses are prohibited, as are things that are prohibited are car wash effluent. So it's just some things that I want the public to think about. Thank you.
Councilmember Rupert. Bless you.
Couple, I guess, one comment and then a question. The comment is on, in particular, the use of open space as a category and then piling in all the governmental uses seems to me a contradiction of what the word actually means. And when you have a category entitled open space, that ought to mean something. And a lot of these uses that are listed there, the hospital issue aside, hospitals don't resemble open space. You know, the facilities that we're talking about there quite often have nothing to do with open space, and it doesn't fit the perception of a person from the public reading our code and then assuming what an expected use would be. And I think in the future it would be useful to align the words we use with what our public expectations are. I want to ask second about the references to director discretion. So what criteria in the drafting process tells you that this is something that we should make it a director discretion item?
When we went through this process in 2020, the council had, prior to that, seen a lot of PUDs. So that all of those came to council in either the preliminary form or prior to that, the preliminary and the final form. When we had the discussion about what could be then delegated to staff or the director, as part of that, we went and evaluated a lot of those PUDs that had been approved, tried to find common elements that the council never had issues with as those approvals went through, and we tried to distill those into the code as items that could be handled administratively or by the director. We then created, of course, criteria on what that approval would have to look like and what that means. So Chapter 8 of the code has all the criteria for the various types of approvals that, whether they be administrative or require public hearings, what has to be followed specifically in order for them to be approved.
So the delegations to the director aren't without a set of criteria upon which to make those decisions. It's not simply go forth and make your own rules.
That's correct. It's very similar to what the council has to deal with. We have to determine that it meets the comprehensive plan. We have to determine that it meets all the elements of the land development code. We have to determine that it will have no significant impact on surrounding areas, as an example. There are a number of criteria that are in the code that we evaluate a case by. And as Councilmember Pfeiffer pointed out, the council, we obviously give you information about what cases we approve in your memos every week. And we then give you the opportunity to question those, ask us questions, and potentially call that up.
One of the concerns I have, the more and more we regulate, the tighter and tighter we try and control, the more need there is for having exceptions and the exercise of discretion. And so I would share that the code is an exhaustive document with all sorts of rules, and society is full of different situations that ought to be considered. And I view a reference to the director as an opportunity to say, maybe one size doesn't fit all, and a different set of eyes on this makes sense. And so I'm not adverse to having some of these delegations to a director so long as they have a criteria to follow. Now, if a party is unhappy with the decision of a director, is there an appeal process?
Yes. Individual with standing, as defined in the code, can request an appeal, and that can be from both sides, a public who has standing or the developer, if they believe they were not afforded the correct decision. So that applies to anyone who has standing under the code.
So we're trying to achieve a balance of appropriate level regulation, appropriate opportunity to specialize requirements for special situations, and an appellate process if either side doesn't like the outcome. And I have to say, I have to be all right with that. Thank you.
Councilmember Marriott.
I have a question about one of the public testimonies we heard tonight was about mushrooms, psychedelic mushrooms. And I understand that it's different from, I believe it was Amendment 64 that brought us marijuana, and that we were compelled to decide to allow it or not. And this doesn't allow us to not allow it. But does that take away our ability to have our own unique regulations or our own unique spots that it fits within our community?
I know Rosalind's done a lot more research on this than I have, so she can probably answer.
So we can have, under the statute, time, place, and manner regulations, but they have to be reasonable. In other words, they can't conflict with state law or including leading to an effective prohibition of natural medicine businesses in the city.
Right. But the state law is pretty broad, right? I mean, it's pretty, the state law is not very restrictive. It restricts distance to schools. What else does it restrict?
Also, it has operations requirements, licensure requirements.
Okay.
In terms of distances, we actually can adopt a less restrictive distance. We can't be more restrictive. And also, we can also have additional restriction to additional uses so long as it's not an effective prohibition for the businesses.
Correct. Okay. All right. So that would be what my belief would be as well. So rather than here, it seems to me that that's a spot, much like we did with marijuana, that might require separate action on its own, that, you know, the city council might ought to take a look at. What are the regulations that would be appropriate for this particular use? Where does it fit within our land development code? In other words, which zone districts, and what should the setbacks be and from what? And I think we're allowed to do all that stuff, but rather than trying to do that as part of this update that's largely, you know, typographical errors and, you know, kind of corrections, might not it be better to do that as a separate issue just unto itself, so that, you know, a bunch of the noise can go away and can be focused just on that? I mean, that's probably not really a question for you, Rosalind, but maybe a question for the rest of council or for the team. You know, might that be, you know, if we were to pass all this tonight, that doesn't preclude us from taking on psychoactive mushrooms at a later date as an amendment to our land development code. Am I correct about that?
I didn't catch your question. Were you
So the question would be that, you know, if we were to accept these changes to our land development code, that wouldn't preclude us from, at a later date, taking on the regulation or the implementation of mushrooms within our code. In other words, we're not banning them now. We'd be allowed now under the whatever's contained in the code, but we can amend our code at a later date to put some guidelines around it that our community would like, and that would give us space to have a community conversation about it, maybe a workshop and well thought out regulations rather than shooting from the hip.
That's correct. Your legislative authority allows you to go back and make those changes as frequently. Well, I mean, you wouldn't want to make them super frequently, but in your example, yes, absolutely. We could come back and discuss that in more detail with council after you've approved the changes tonight.
Right. Okay. So I just put down a pin here. This obviously won't involve me, but I would suggest to this council, I think the public has brought up some very good points. I think the state was completely reckless in their adoption of placing on the ballot, and then this adoption of psychoactive mushrooms. I think it was not well thought out. I think it was intentional to not allow communities to not allow it, unlike the marijuana thing where we were allowed to not allow it. And I think that definitely puts the impetus on us to regulate it properly for our community. And our community is not the same as every other community. And, you know, the state seems to never learn this lesson that our communities within the state are different. And so I would suggest that council do just that, regardless of whatever the outcome on this is tonight, that at some later date, and sooner rather than later, take up, you know, what should this regulatory environment look like? Where should this fit in the code? What should the setbacks be, and from what? And I think Mr. Rawlick brought up a bunch of really good points about, you know, what happens with the stuff they throw away? I mean, what if a kid gets a hold of that? You know, what if your dog eats it? I think there's a lot of potential issues here that probably aren't appropriate for us to deal with tonight, but I think they are appropriate for the council to deal with, and I would suggest that whatever the outcome is tonight, that be something that the council takes on sooner rather than later.
Excellent. I would concur with Mr. Marriott's point to bring, as we look at this tonight, to bring that particular topic back up, because it does require a more fulsome discussion, I think, and consideration for the public welfare. And you did confirm we have no active license applications at the current time, correct? If we were to receive an application, would that be something under these existing rules, if we were to pass this tonight, that then that application would be guided by those rules as opposed to the time, place, and manner restrictions we want to be able to take up in the future? Or could we put a hold on accepting licenses until we've been able to have that discussion and set up municipal policy?
If the code is adopted, if the ordinance is adopted tonight, then we would hold them accountable to the standards that have been adopted. So if you don't want to adopt the ordinance tonight around that particular regulation, I'm not really sure, actually. I think we would be running afoul a bit of state law, because it is already a voter-approved law that we need to address. We could certainly pass it as it is now and come back and make amendments. It's going to take us some time to figure out some of those more prescriptive types of restrictions, and we need to also balance that with the state law and understand that more fully if we're going to get into that kind of nuance. So it's really up to the council how you'd like to handle that.
Okay. And a quick question, because the concern obviously is with adjacency to residential neighborhoods. I believe that's what I'm hearing from our public. And so with that concern, Mr. Smetana, I know we have discussed pocket neighborhoods for a long time. That's been a sort of one of my own pet issues, pet desires. And so with that, I know we created increased uses for pocket neighborhoods. Is medical office, i.e. this, an allowable use for that?
Let me look real quickly. I don't believe so, but let me look.
I didn't think so, but it's been so long since that it's been, what, 2 years? So I
And we
just
haven't
wanted to
had
verify.
any applications, but let me just, we'll verify real quickly here.
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to make sure that this couldn't be one of those sideways things that we don't expect it to come in, and suddenly there's literally one inside of a house on a street corner.
Mayor Simpson?
Yes.
I'd just like to add that we've been informed by DOLA that we've had, I think, 2 applications for natural medicine facilities, and both of them are located, they're in areas that allow medical office only.
Okay.
Yeah.
Medical office. So, and we've been informed by DOLA, so Arvada's had 2 or the state of Colorado's had 2?
Arvada's had 2.
Okay, so learned that in real time tonight. Thank you.
Everything shifted on this particular.
It's okay.
So small office would actually be allowed in the CN district, which would also include, hold on one second. I'm sorry, that excludes medical office. Small office is allowed, but medical office is excluded from the CN district.
So this would be an excluded use for, okay.
Correct.
That is quite comforting, because, yeah, there's a big difference between medical office-only districts and some of these smaller offices, so thank you. So with that, I agree with Mr. Marriott. I don't want to run afoul, and Mr. Pfeiffer, I don't want to run afoul of state law. It does kind of sound like we're putting a rock in a hard place here. So my inclination on this particular issue is adopt, but let's try and get back with some time, manner, place restrictions that are thoughtful and appropriate for our community. And let's do it with some expediency, because we don't want this to be 2 years down the line. And then another thought, so going back to the parks open space, because we did have that list of facilities, you said that what we would do is we would basically, the language should end at the word public facilities.
Correct.
But one of the concerns we're hearing tonight that I happen to agree with is, how is that defined? Because it is a broad term. So a public facility, that's why we had that long list, is all of those things, including public hospitals and public utilities are public facilities. So my thought here, and I open this one to the council for consideration, I'm obviously not an attorney. I would look to our very fine city attorney and her incredible team who do so much good work for us to come up with proper language, but essentially something along the lines of public facilities related to the care, maintenance, relevant education, and public welfare of use of the land. Something that kind of limits what public facility can be there, but to Councilmember Davis's apt assumption, I mean, Majestic View, we need that nature center, something like that is absolutely appropriate on public space. So we want to leave that desire, but we also want to just tighten it up a little bit so that we know exactly what type of facilities can go in there that are public facilities, as opposed to the broader, such as City Hall.
That is certainly something we could look at, for example, buildings that are in OS districts today include the Arvada Center, which was discussed.
Yeah.
Recreation centers, Apex facilities are in OS districts. The tennis center, Apex Tennis Center is in, which has an enclosed tennis court. So if you would like, we can try and tailor that, but I think we already have a number of public buildings in those open space areas that may make that a little difficult. Now, we still have the use list that says hospitals are not permitted in the open space district, so there is that safeguard, but we can try to craft some language around that.
Yeah, maybe
We could just
it-
have some exclusions, I guess.
I think that's fair, and maybe it's something along the lines of public recreation and welfare, things of that nature. Again,
arts.
And arts, things of that nature, yeah, just so that it tightens it up, but it restricts it for the public welfare and enjoyment, essentially. So, again, that's a council conversation if we want to do that, just throwing an idea on the table. Those are sort of my notes and thoughts, but I turn it back to the council for consideration. Mayor Pro Tem Mormon.
So I agree with you, Mayor, on that piece, and I know we've got some other changes happening, and it's starting to get a little messy. So I'm wondering, do we need to defer this to a continuance to another meeting? And I look to our attorney on that.
So I think you're thinking along the same lines that I am here. What I do not like, for purposes of our legislation, getting it right, is I don't like wordsmithing from the dais, just because everybody gets confused. So we're getting to a point now where if we're going to be creating definitions for terms and things like that, an option that the council can consider is continuing the public hearing to your next business meeting or something like that. We need to look at what public hearings are on the agenda, because we've got a lot of big ones coming up, and I don't want to take up space that we might otherwise use to consider other important land use matters. Could I have a couple minutes to talk with the team really quick? Because they may have opinions that I don't, or bring up great points that I don't, that I could share.
Would you like me to just call maybe another 5-minute recess, allow everybody to?
That would be perfect.
Okay, I'm gonna call a 5-minute recess. Everybody stretch your legs, go to the bathroom one more time, gather your thoughts. We'll be back.
it's expensive, and all that. And I think that the community college system is the perfect place to be the connective tissue between K-12. Maybe 4 years is the answer, but you can come to a community college and can get credits that are guaranteed transferable and save your family a boatload of money, right? And go on and actually have productive time at the rest of the 4-year college. Or you can get a certificate, and you can get an apprenticeship, and you can start on your path that way, and maybe you go to college later. Fine, college doesn't have to be for everyone. But I envision that system as being able to attach the economy and employers, because employers have a role in this. And
Everybody, I'll call us back to session. Our brilliant team put their heads together, and Ms. Morris.
Yeah, so I think we have a potential solution here if council would like to vote on this tonight to create some clarity.
Okay.
So there were a couple of different changes that Mr. Smetana talked about earlier tonight related to some of the things that were brought to our attention related a couple of definitions. So Ms. Stenson has those written out. So before whoever makes the motion, she will read out the amendments, and then you can just say, you can go through your motion and say as amended, that you're moving to approve as amended, and we can publish in full. So that third change that we were talking about, the purpose section, what we're going to do, and Ms. Stenson will correct me if I'm wrong, but we're going to revert back to the old version of the purpose. We're going to do it in a way that looks like we've repealed and reenacted the same piece, but it'll go back to the version it was at before. So we're not going to add the changes. Long story short, we're not adding the changes that we've suggested tonight, or at least that's not what we would recommend to council. Does that make sense?
Yes. Okay. So with that, we did notice there were a couple of typos, so we already have a couple of these technical. What I'm going to do then is I'm going to ask whichever council member so desires to make the motion. Then for the amendments, we're going to ask Ms. Stinson to read those amendments, and then we'll say as motion to approve, essentially, and published in full. So, yes. So I'm going to open it up to continuing conversation, questions, or any kind of action from council. Councilmember Pfeiffer.
Well, I don't have any more, but if we're done, can we have the team go ahead and read the edits or the amendments?
Absolutely, we can go ahead and do that.
All right. Ms. Steenson.
All right, thank you, Mayor Simpson. So we are receiving, my understanding is we are receiving direction from council to make 3 changes to the proposed ordinance. And we do sometimes receive this sort of direction from council on the evening that an ordinance is up for second reading, and that's what's happening this evening. So we are making 3 changes to this ordinance. And I'm going to go through these in the section numbers according to the section numbers in the ordinance itself. So and what I'm going to do is I'm going to read the legislative language that comes before the substantive change to the ordinance. So bear with me. The first section that you've directed us to change is section 1 of the ordinance. And so the legislative language will read subparagraph 2-1-3-1, subparagraph A, purpose of subsection 2-1-3-1 OS, Parks and Open Space of Division 2-1-3, Parks and Open Space, and Residential Districts of Article 2-1, zoning districts and lot and building standards of Chapter 2, zoning districts of the Arvada Land Development Code is hereby repealed and reenacted to read as follows. Subsection A, purpose. The purpose of the Parks and Open Space, or OS, zoning district is to provide for public parks, open space, nature preserves, recreation facilities, golf courses, green belts, cemeteries, waterways, trails, protected floodplains, and fields, period. So that's the first change. The second change that we've been directed to make has to do with a new section 79.5 that will be inserted into this ordinance before publication. And so this section is in addition to the ordinance as it appears in the council packet. So this new section 79.5, the legislative language is going to read as follows. Subsection 1G of the definition of heavy industry of Division 11-3-3 definitions of Article 11-3 of Chapter 11 measurements, rules and construction and definitions of the Arvada Land Development Code is hereby repealed and reenacted to read as follows. And the substance of this will be that subsection 1G will be revised to read more than 60 heavy truck trips per day. And this reflects that change from the more than 30 trips by semi-trailer trucks per day that was brought to our attention earlier. The remaining language in the definition of heavy industry will remain unchanged. And then the last change that we are being directed to make has to do with Section 81 of the ordinance. And this is language that simply revises the existing legislative language in Section 81 of this ordinance as it appears in your packet. And so the legislative language is going to change. And this is being done to reflect the repeal of that double definition of light industry that we talked about earlier. So all we're changing is the legislative language. And what it's going to say now in Section 81 is that both definitions of light industry set forth in Division 11-3-3 definitions of Article 11-3 definitions of Chapter 11 measurement, rules of construction, and definitions are hereby repealed, and the definition of light industry is reenacted to read as follows. And then everything in the substantive definition of light industry will remain the same as what's shown in your packet. And again, that's just being done to repeal that double definition that I think we were left with as a result of that 2022 ordinance. So those are the three changes that we are making to this ordinance. Each of these three changes will appear in the ordinance that will be published in full. And so tonight, my understanding is that staff is asking you to consider the ordinance as it's been revised, and we have provided a revised motion for this ordinance.
Correct. Councilmember Pfeiffer.
When there's no questions, I'll like to reserve the motion.
The motion is yours. I see no lights.
Okay, I move that Council Resolution 25-019, an ordinance amending various provisions of the Arvada's Land Development Code of the Arvada City Code be approved on final reading as amended in number 4905 and ordered published in full.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Mormon.
Thank you. I will be supporting this motion, and I appreciate the work that staff has done tonight to address especially the public open space issue that I think is very important, that we get it right. So I appreciate you working on that this evening, and I believe that it's to my satisfaction that we've addressed that this evening. I'll say this Twice. I agree with Councilmember Marriott. I will say it again. I agree with Councilmember Marriott. I woke him up. We need to be looking at the psychedelic or psychoactive, mushrooms issue a little more in depth and have a place for public conversation around that, and so that we as a legislative body can look at options that we can make sure we get it right for our community. So I am in full support of that. And I had raised the issue about hotels and motels as it was brought up by the Planning Commission, and I paused there wondering if that is something that we should take action on tonight, but I will not recommend that. I think the conditional use piece is important, that allows us to review that as a council anytime that there is a proposal for hotels and motels in the MXS zoning. While I think it is important that we are protecting that residential piece to that MXS area, but we also need, as Councilmember Pfeiffer and others have pointed out, that we need more places for our visitors to stay when they're coming to visit us. And so I think we need to have that option, but also make sure that we get it right. And so that conditional allows us to get it right is what I believe. So again, I'll be supporting this. Thank you for the work.
Councilmember Davis.
Thank you. Thank you to the team for your quick action. That's wonderful, and I am hoping that the members of the public are satisfied with that motion and that movement. And I'm really excited about the amount of public engagement. It's great to see people engaged in their local government. I mean, it's very, very important. And I also agree with Mr. Marriott, as I have done several times, that we will be looking at the psilocybin mushroom issue and working some specific language that will work for the city in particular. So thank you again, team.
Thank you. Councilmember Ruperts and Marriott, do you care to speak? Otherwise, I need your votes.
Seems reasonable.
Thank you. I will just echo the comments of my colleagues. I know this is these are some hard ones. So many of the things tonight were cleanup items, consistency issues, things imposed upon us by the state that we don't really have much choice but to update to. I agree entirely. I'd like to have a fulsome discussion on the psilocybin restrictions, do time, place, manner appropriately for our community. Definitely give our community opportunity to weigh in on that particular topic and what they would like to see. I think that's an important conversation for us all to have much more thoroughly than we were able to do in this space tonight. And I know I do think the open space is the appropriate move. I appreciate from the staff, where the way the open space is currently being used is the way it needs to continue to be used. And so we have proper restrictions on it. It is, I think we all, well, as we acknowledged, we love it. We love the way it's currently being managed. We don't want to change that. So kept that basically as is tonight. I'm very pleased about that. With director discretion, I know that one comes up because she, for those of you whom we're referencing he tonight, she is not an elected official. And that is something we have thought a lot about. However, we have seen some hearings that have had to come before us because the director does not have discretion for common sense changes. Council was up here, we were discussing a hearing we had a little over a year ago about somebody needing to change the location of his fence, which triggered a major modification. The poor gentleman had to spend like a year coming through an appeals process to get to us, and he literally had it approved inside of 5 minutes. It was not something that should have ever come to our attention. So being able to provide some common sense flexibility, but at the same time maintaining our call-up provision that we can call up something that is wrong. I highly agree with that. I think the call-up is one of the best things we've done here, even though we've never had to formally use it. The ability to have it seems appropriate. And so we will continue to make sure that that right is protected. So with that, I will be supporting the motion, but again, we can always come back and have these fulsome conversations as they need to happen. You know, these things, they say they're the law, but just as we're doing tonight, making updates, these things can be updated. It's not a constitutional item. So if and when changes need to be made, we can make those. So with that, I will display the vote. That passes 6-0 with Councilmember Ambrose being an excused absence. That concludes our public hearings for this evening. We have one person signed up for the five-minute public comment, Mr. David Finch. Thank you. You stuck around like a champ tonight. Thank you very much. Yep. Okay, Mike, could you do me a favor and grab his microphone? Thank you, Mr. Griffith. All right. Yes, sir. All right. Name and address for the public record, sir.
Yeah, hi, my name is David Finch. I live at 8611 West, 54th Place in Arvada. Is it not 5 minutes? There she goes. Thank you very much. Just want to make sure. I've talked to Mr. Marriott very briefly about some of the things I've seen in Old Town Arvada that I was concerned about with ADA access. And then I went to an event, the second Saturday's event, and come to realize that there are some systematic problems. And I'm thinking as a city, we've been kind of sleeping at the wheel here in different departments. I know it's hard to get to talking between departments and everybody's kind of siloed, but I'm going to highlight, and I'm a good example is how I come today. I left home, I come down, I went rolling right through Old Town Arvada, and I was going through there, I seen sandwich board signs, and according to city ordinances, there's nothing to be on the sidewalks. Those signs cannot be there unless they have a special use permit. I seen patio heaters. There's some issues about that with the fire code. And on the way over here, there's a lot of thin areas for sidewalk space in there also. And when we put the parklets in, they are not handicapped accessible, period. So any redesign or any maintenance of it, and I'll tell you why they're not accessible, is the tables. The wheelchair turnaround needs to be in the middle. I have to be able to turn my chair around within that location. And the ramps, some have ramps, some don't. Sometimes the ramps are up too much of an angle. You know, there's an angle that you have to put them at. So there's lots of things to do and review concerning around this. And some of it has to do with safety also. In the event, the planning department's got a really good form. I think what's happening is the form's being filled out, and it was the same event it was last year, and then it was the time before. And that concerns me because when I went to that event, I found out that there's 3 businesses, according to them, instructed by the city, now who knows what department, that they're required to have some kind of crowd control devices around because they serve liquor, which is good. The problem is in doing so, they've restricted my access to their establishments. They pulled the black fence and they put it between all 3 of their businesses, so I couldn't go behind. The sidewalks were not accessible, and by fire code, the sidewalks are supposed to be accessible unless there's a special use permit that closes down the sidewalks. So it's complicated, but I couldn't get into those 3 businesses. So I talked to the 3 or 4 different businessmen, and I know a couple of them sit on the district board for improvement, and they were very nice. Everybody's been very nice to me and accessible, and especially the team that surrounds that event. And I asked for a meeting. Usually I get well, tell me on the phone what went wrong. There's too much details to go through this. But I'm meeting with 3 or 4 people from the city tomorrow, and I like that because it's going through several different departments. I'm just going to go through this. I can't talk as fast as that one guy. Wow. The Arvada Protection District has specific guidelines to ensure safe movement and emergency routes during events. And I'll use an example, and this is a long-time problem. We have a current business owner that blocks a fire escape. It is an existing fire escape ramp, okay, and I've called the fire department about it. And they called me back and said, well, we're sorry, Mr. Finch, but we really don't do ADA access. I said, well, I called you guys because it's a fire escape problem. And this was before we had to just ask, wait for me to get into the city. That's tracked, and I'm doing that, and that's working really well for me. So it's been existing since then. I've even approached management, and it was like, well, the city says we can do it. That's always the simplest answer, but it's not necessarily always correct. So clear pathways, number of exits. They also require the exits to be marked. And if they are at night, they have to be lighted. That's kind of easy, I think. It's a no-brainer. Battery, solar-powered lights. But they've got to come up with some way to make sure as a person in a wheelchair. I do know during Christmas, I couldn't see the mayor's head, and that's because there were so many people in that event. Now, how am I going to find the exits out of there? We were butt to butt and elbow to elbow in that event. So I'm running out of time, but handicapped accessibility, there's lots of issues around that, and I'm going to work with the city on this. I just don't call on the phone and grumble. I'm going to insert myself in this, and I'm going to follow through and make sure things are done, and I think they will be. From all indication I got, that everybody is really welcoming and inclusive. And inclusive, by the way,
Sir,
we're going to talk about that. Nope, I'm done.
Okay.
I just want to use.
Thank you very much.
Inclusiveness. I appreciate it. This is being included.
Thank you.
Mhm.
We are happy to have you here.
Oops. Let me rearrange the furniture.
Thank you, Mr. Rollick. Is there anyone else in chambers who would like to give the other Mr. Rollick? Please come on up.
I'm going to talk about something that wasn't on the agenda, but it was mentioned in passing. Call-ups. We loved when they were voted in. I have been to the state testifying many times, and I met Lauren there a few times, and bragged about the call-ups in Arvada. I've met with Jefferson County commissioners. Gosh, call-ups would be such a good thing. I was told by some commissioners, not a chance. However, when we tried, there was a certain trail that went away, and we called and we asked, and the Wildflower Ponds community lost a trail easement that was next to them that was part of a vote in 2023, Howard Ranch, and it's been contentious. The detention pond moved as well. We asked for a call-up on that. We asked for a date on when the decision was actually made. The easement was vacated. Public easements here are supposed to have a notification, and we went back and forth on that. We'd love more clarity on that. But public easements, which if anyone can go on it, it's not a access easement, it's a public easement. Public easements require notice type: published, posted, mailed, internet. And that's table 8.2.4.2. So we never saw that happen, and we found out through the grapevine this easement was going to go away. And we asked about when the effective decision date was going to be so we could know when our 17 days would start. I emailed many times, never got an answer. So while we tout call-ups, we haven't seen the proof that they actually work. When we talk about with the trail easement and the detention pond changing from one side closer to businesses to closer to residences, I was told that people don't decide on paint colors. However, the developers were under oath that day, and that was part of what was put into the record. There was a specific legal, whatever document type of thing that went in that was supposed to be substantially similar to what was proposed that day. We reviewed the video. There's talks about cottonwood trees that were going to stay. They're all cut down. So while we have this call-up here, when Ralston Valley Coalition asked to exercise it, there was silence.
Thank you. Would anyone else at this time like to give public comment? Seeing none, I will close the public comment portion of the agenda and open it to council reports. Councilmember Davis.
Yes, thank you. So I just wanted to share with everybody what has been going on. So I went to 2 ribbon cuttings this past week. Old Town Social, which was really great. I suggest that folks go ahead and visit that. And the True You Collective, which is a health and wellness business. It's very new. Applewood Seed Company celebrated its 60 years in business. I went to the Servicios de la Raza Gala, and that was a lot of fun. Saw some old friends from other cities. And then I wrapped up the weekend with going to the Arvada Gardeners. They had an open house that had games, a scavenger hunt, produce, lots of flowers. It was a grand time. I'm sorry that others missed it, but it was a lot of fun. So it was very active 4 days.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Mormon.
Thank you, Mayor. I too got to attend some of those events, especially the Applewood Seed Company's 60th anniversary. And that was really an awesome event. The governor was there, and you know, it's always fun to be out in the community and see these businesses that didn't know were there, and to be in their garden, their test garden, is just absolutely gorgeous. And I got to speak on behalf of the city and this council and celebrate with them. And I made the comment because they had shared that that their seeds had been used in, I think, like Buenos Aires in their medians. And I was like, Arvada should be using these seeds in our medians. So something for us to think about if that is something we could do. And then also got to go to the Servicios de la Raza Gala, which was a really extraordinary event. And I want to compliment our staff who have worked to build that relationship, I think, very recently. And I think that's a really important relationship for us to continue to work on and develop with a great organization that can provide often awesome services to members of our community. So really appreciate our staff making that happen and inviting us, including us in that experience. And the last thing I'll say is I will be having my monthly coffee chat next Friday on the 29th from 2 to 4 at Sweet Bloom at 77th and Wadsworth. Thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Wick.
Nothing for me tonight, thank you.
Ms. Morris?
Nothing for me tonight either.
All right, we stand adjourned.